Business meeting of November 16th, 2017 at 6:14. First order of business we have is swearing in of new members. And I believe we have one new member to the board. Welcome, James.
Thank you.
I, James Mitchell,
I, James Mitchell,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and maintain
that I will support and maintain
the Constitution and laws
the Constitution and laws
of the United States
and the Constitution and laws
of North Carolina,
of North Carolina,
not inconsistent therewith,
not inconsistent therewith,
and that I will faithfully
that I will faithfully
discharge the duties
discharge the duties
of my office
of my office
as a member
of the Board of Adjustments
of the town of
town of Zebulon.
Next item is a reminder, if you have your good old PDA cell phone with you, if you would, please silence it or turn it off so we don't have chirping during the meeting. Next item on my list is the approval of tonight's agenda, which will be the adoption of the minutes from the March 30th, 2017 meeting, and then the new business item, which will be the appeal of Land Use Administrator, AP 2018-01. Do I hear a motion to accept the agenda as presented in your booklet?
So moved.
Have a second? Second. Second? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Agenda is accepted as submitted. Our first new business item will be AP 2018-01. I do have some little clerical items here I'd like to go through. First of all, is the hearing held no longer than 60 days after the receipt of the petition?
Yes.
Notice of the time and place of the hearing was given by first-class mail to petitioners and property owners at least 20 days prior to tonight's hearing.
Yes.
That notices were placed in and around the property as deemed appropriate at least 7 days prior to this hearing.
Yes.
And that the general circulation newspaper was notified twice of the time and date of the place of hearing for publication prior to this hearing.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Second item I have is a little statement I'd like to read about the Board of Adjustments at every one of our meetings. The Board of Adjustments has a responsibility to hear and decide appeals from the decision or order of the administrator charged with enforcing the zoning ordinances. Appeals generally fall in two categories. The first are appeals which are based upon disagreement as to the interpretation of a particular provision or the ordinance, and appeals in which the applicant is asking for relief, a variance from the application of a particular provision to this property. In regard to the first interpretation, the Board is limited to finding the true meaning or intent of the ordinance provision. The Board cannot change the actual meaning or bend it to fit a particular situation. It can only find what, in its opinion, is the true meaning, and in doing so, either uphold or correct the administrator's interpretation. In regard to the second authority, a variance, the Board may vary the terms of the ordinance, but only where practical difficulties or unnecessary hardships would result from carrying out the strict letter of the ordinance. In granting variances, the Board must make specific findings and conclusions as required by law to support its decision. For example, the hardship must relate to the property and not to the applicant's personal situation, and hardship cannot be a result of the applicant's own actions. Any action by the Board in favor of the applicant requires a 4 out of 5 vote, and we have 5 members seated. I am sure that each member of the Board would personally like to assist each applicant with his or her problem, but the Board is bound by its limited powers and duties and its legal responsibilities. Any appeal from a decision of the Board must be made to the Superior Court and must be effected within 30 days after the Board's decision. Basically, the rules of the hearing are quite simple. We will hear the case presented by the administrator, Mark, and then we will hear from the petitioner, who is here this evening, and then we'll open up questions and let anybody else who likes to testify can address the Board. At this point in time, I'd like to swear in a group swear in, all those people who think they want to talk tonight. This doesn't mean you have to talk, but if you think you have something to add. Yes?
I was just going to say, we should probably swear the witnesses in one at a time, since we are recording the proceedings, and it's easier for the
It's
transcript.
better for the minutes to do them as they come up to speak.
You don't want to do them as a group anymore?
No, sir. We do
Okay.
not.
That's what we
Also,
used to do.
We forgot to approve the minutes.
Oh, yeah, we did, correct, thank you. Let me back up. The adoption of the minutes in your package from March 30th, 2017, that is the first item in your booklet. Have you all had a chance to review those?
Yes.
Yes.
Any questions on those? Do I hear a motion to adopt the minutes from March 30th, 2017?
So
I
moved.
make a motion.
I have a motion.
I make a motion to adopt the minutes from the last meeting.
Okay, motion's been made. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All right, any discussion? All those in favor of accepting the minutes as being presented in our booklet, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes are accepted. Okay, Lisa, I guess you can swear in Mark?
It's actually going to be Julie for
Oh,
for
Julie,
staff,
okay.
and then Davida. But
All right. And since we are recording, it does help if you can announce your name before you speak, so when they type the minutes up, they know who's talking.
I'll swear everybody in, and then I'll ask you to state your name and address. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do. My name is Julie Spriggs, and the address is 1003 North Arundel Avenue, Zebulon, North Carolina, 27597. And so tonight, the staff report is going to be a little bit different format than what we've done in the past. This is an appeal. There are many moving parts for this staff report. We do have several witnesses that are speaking on behalf of staff. We're going to have Davida present her findings for the code enforcement and minimum housing inspector, and then we are going to call up several other witnesses that we have seated in the front row to supplement staff's report. And so when Davida is calling up her key witnesses for their expert testimony, we'll let you know when we're done, but we do have 4 or 5 that need to speak as part of our staff report. And so if you want to interject with questions, we're prepared for that, but if you want to save your questions till the end, it might be easier. That way you can have all of the report from all the different people who have representing different agencies that were part of the case. And so with that, I'll turn it over to Davida, and she will finish presenting the staff report.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? State your name and address, please.
Davida Moore. Davida Moore, 1003 North Arundel Avenue, Zebulon, North Carolina. Good evening. It is unfortunate to present this type of case to you this evening. While some of the photos and video may be uncomfortable to watch, our objective is to show you the facts of this case and how we saw it. It is my hope that you will make the best decision not only for this community but for this family. I would like to begin by giving an overview of what I will be presenting to you this evening. First will be the initial site inspection, where I will be describing to you the details of what occurred during the inspection. The second item that I will be discussing with you will be the search warrant, along with the findings from the search warrant and my reason to vacate the owner from the home. The third item will be my findings of the minimum housing inspection, including video and photos that were taken during the inspection. I will be going over the result of those findings, which led to the home being deemed dilapidated. The final item that I will go over with you will be recommendations that I hope you will consider when making your decision. During the minimum housing investigation for 114 East Lee Street, there were 3 significant events that occurred. The first being the initial site inspection, the second being the search warrant, and the third being the minimum housing inspection. The initial site inspection occurred on August 4th, 2017, which you can refer to in Chapter 9 of your agenda packets. I was informed by a fellow staff member that there was a home located at 114 East Lee Street that may not have had water due to there not being a payment made on their account since 2013. I informed my supervisor, Mark Hetrick, that I would go by the property to do a site inspection. Due to the past abatements on this property, my supervisor advised that I take an officer with me and check to see if the owner had water. Later that afternoon, Officer Pooley and I met at the property. Once on the property, Officer Pooley and I were greeted by a strong smell of ammonia coming from the home. It was evident, as you can see from the photos, that the carport was overflowing with large amounts of various items. The noticeable nuisance violations were the overgrown grass, as you can see from the first photo, and the nuisance vehicle sitting in the front yard, as you can see from the second video, or excuse me, from the second photo. It was apparent that there were broken window panes on the side of the home and that cats were going in and out of the broken windows. After introducing myself to the owner, Miss Virginia Mayo, I asked if she was aware of the apparent overgrown grass and the nuisance vehicle in the front yard. Miss Mayo informed me that she was aware of the grass and that she had just gotten it cut in June, but it had grown back very quickly. Her daughter was able to show me a picture of when it was cut. I asked Miss Mayo if she was aware of the strong smell of ammonia, and Miss Mayo stated that she didn't smell anything. When asked about the amount of cats that were in the home, Miss Mayo stated that she had 8 cats living with her. I asked Miss Mayo if she had running water in the home. Miss Mayo replied by stating that she had just made a payment the day before and that the water had been turned off due to a leak in the water line to the ice maker for the refrigerator. I informed Miss Mayo that I would unfortunately have to start a nuisance violation case and possibly a minimum housing case based off what I witnessed. I informed Miss Mayo that I would send her a violation letter with a time period in addressing the violations. Once back in the office, I was able to return Miss Mayo's phone call. During the phone call, she informed me that her water had been turned back on and began running water in the background to prove that she had water. I informed Ms. Mayo that I would have to start a minimum housing case to address the strong smell of ammonia coming from the home and to address the broken windows. I confirmed with the City of Raleigh Utility Billing Department that they had cut the water back on due to a payment agreement that was set up between Ms. Mayo and the City of Raleigh. I emailed Wake County Animal Control Manager Karen Rogers to inform her of the strong smell of ammonia coming from the property and of the cats that were entering and exiting out of the side carport window. After informing Ms. Rogers of what was witnessed at the initial site inspection, Ms. Rogers informed me of recent past visits that some of her animal control officers had completed and what was witnessed during those site visits. It was agreed that the next step should be a search warrant that Wake County Animal Control would be the lead on, but as the minimum housing inspector, I would be a part of. There was a briefing that was held on August 9, 2017, with Wake County Hoarding Task Force to discuss the process of issuing the search warrant to the owner and the objectives to complete during the search warrant. Those in attendance were representatives from the Zebulon Police Department, Wake County Animal Control, Zebulon Fire Department, Wake County Fire Department, City of Raleigh Hazmat, Therapeutic Alternatives Mobile Crisis Unit, and myself as being the Code Enforcement and Permitting Officer. The search warrant was later issued that day on August 9, 2017. August 10, 2017, at 9 o'clock, the search warrant was executed. You may also refer to this in Chapter 11. After the search warrant was presented to Ms. Mayo by Ms. Rogers and Zebulon Police Department, Ms. Mayo, along with her children, were taken outside of the home into the front yard. Shortly after, the side windows within the carport that were broken were covered by an animal control officer so that any cats within the home were unable to get out, thus making it easier to catch them. There was a hole in the roof that you can see in these photos that several cats began to exit from as shown. The hole in the roof and the chimney were covered to prevent further cats from escaping. The first department to go into the home was the City of Raleigh hazmat team to ensure the ammonia levels were low enough to enter. At this time, I would like to submit into record the ammonia levels submitted to me through an email and attachments by Captain Marvin Brooks, who is the Hazardous Materials Program Manager for City of Raleigh Hazmat. Unfortunately, he couldn't be here today, but in his email, he informed me that the ammonia levels were 3.6 ppm, or part per million max ammonia levels, which were very low levels.
Are we allowed to ask questions?
If during the testimony you have one, you're free to ask a question, or you could wait till the end. We'll mark the parts per million results here as Exhibit A for our booklets.
Once everyone was informed that the ammonia levels were safe to enter, Wake County Animal Control entered the home. After the Wake County Animal Control inspection was complete, myself and the Planning Director, Mark Hetrick, entered into the home for the first time. The next several slides will show some of the immediate concerns that myself and the Planning Director, Mark Hetrick, noticed during the inspection. As you will see in the present slide, there are two holes that are shown. The first picture shows a hole that is located in the living room. The second picture is a hole located in the dining room. The hole located in the dining room was the hole that some of the cats were found to be using to try to escape from animal control, since that hole also led to an outside from it opening from the roof or into the roof. The next slide shows you a small hole that was in the family room of the home. Due to this room being cluttered with various items and no clear pathway to walk, as you can see in the second photo, we were unable to take a close photo or even inspect this room. There was a lot of concern about the number of extension cords located in the dining room. The amount of extension cords stood as a safety hazard due to the potential to trip or fall over them, and a fire hazard due to the potential to overheat or deteriorate from continuous use. Though this next slide may be uncomfortable to look at, it aids in showing the amount of infestation that was in this residence. In the home at the time of the search warrant, there was an infestation of German cockroaches, fungus gnats, granary moths, fleas, spiders. This photo shows the closet door located in the first bedroom of the home. The cabinets in this residence were found to be covered in roach feces. The concern at the time of the search warrant was how this dark film that was covering over all the interior shelving of the cabinets may have been affecting the health of the owner, Ms. Mayo, and her 2 adult children. Though the floors throughout this residence felt soft when walking on them, the floors in this particular bedroom, which we call the first bedroom, were extremely soft and, as you can see in the first photo, wet in some spots. This room was the only bedroom in the residence that had a mattress and appeared to be the only sleeping quarters in the room. The bedroom did leave a narrow path to walk through, but as you can see from the photos, there were boxes, bottles, papers, and various items that were lined up against the walls and are scattered throughout the path. The mattress was found to have cockroaches crawling on it, and it was assumed at the time of the search warrant that there may also be bed bugs in the residence, but the home was later confirmed by our exterminator, Jimmy Lynn, to not have bed bugs due to the infestation of cockroaches. In the first photo of this slide, you will notice this being a photo of one of the air vents in the home. The problem with this vent is how much it is covered and clogged with dust and various items. Pet dander, microorganisms from cat litter, rodent feces, etc. This was a concern due to the fact that it impedes HVAC airflow. It contaminates the HVAC system, thus becoming a breeding ground for bacteria or other pests, and it has the potential to allow dirt and dust to spread quicker in the home. The second photo shows cat litter that was found behind the china cabinet located in the dining room, which was not only a health and safety concern for the family, but also for the animals that at that time were living in the home. The next slide shows the condition of the HVAC system. This photo shows a hole in the ductwork that connected the HVAC system to the home. This hole was found to be an entryway into the home, potentially for wild animals. The hole in the HVAC system was also a sign that the HVAC may not be working properly, and due to the summer heat at that time, and Ms. Mayo having informed me at the initial site inspection that she was disabled and on disability, this brought up a concern as well. Once our inspection was complete, we were faced with several immediate concerns that rendered the home to be unsafe to occupy. The number one concern was the pest and the level of infestation that existed in the home. The second concern was the holes in the roof and in the back of the home around the HVAC unit. These holes exposed the home to further structural damage from things like the weather and allowed animals to easily enter into the home. The third concern was the level of how much the home was unsanitary and the health and safety risks from that due to there being a disabled person living in the home at that time. So, with those risks, we came to the decision to vacate Ms. Mayo and her adult children from the home. Ms. Mayo was informed of this shortly after completing the inspection. Up until the date of the minimum housing inspection, there existed a safety concern for the community and for the residents toward the access of animals getting in and out of the home due to the broken window panes and the hole in the HVAC unit located in the back of the home. In order to address this issue and to prevent the potential hazard of wildlife entering the home and doing any further damage to the residents, our Public Works Department covered the broken window panes with plywood, as well as holes located within the HVAC unit and in the back of the home. The minimum housing inspection occurred on August 24th, 2017. It may be easier for you to follow along if you use the overall property layout in Chapter 8, page 217. Those in attendance of the minimum housing inspection were Taylor Johnson from Better Off Construction, Jimmy Lynn from Surety Exterminating Company, the planning director, Mark Hetrick, and myself as the code enforcement and permitting officer. If you look at your property layout map, the location that I am starting off with is the back of the home, or as you can see what is on the map, titled the rear yard. The photo above is a picture of the back window, so as you can see, we are at the back of the home. You can see in the photo how this window at the back of the home the window casing in this photo was heavily deteriorated. The window was loose and the screen was found to be coming apart. So what I'm about to play for you is a video from the carport and shed. So if you look at your map, we're now moving to the outside storage area and the carport. We have just now left the carport. This is the end of the carport, and we are now moving into the outside storage shed. As you can see from that video and from the photos above, the outside storage area was cluttered with various items. This area was imperative to our inspection because it was also the entrance into the crawl space. Unfortunately, we were unable to inspect this area, as you can see, due to the amount of items that was inside the storage area. The carport was completely covered with numerous items, as you can see from the photo. The next video that I'm about to play for you is video of the living room. It's facing the family room, but the video will turn soon. Now we are in the living room. The strip that is hanging down from that ceiling fan is called a Nuvon strip. That was placed there by our exterminator to help control the amount of infestation. As you can see, there is a narrow path to walk through. It's not a big enough space to walk through. One of the items of concern in the living room was the hole in the ceiling. Though we were unable to find out the cause of the hole, it looked as though it had been patched up at one time, but due to unknown reasons, was beginning to reappear. In the second photo, it shows the living room door exit into the carport. The tape at the bottom was to cover the hole that appeared to be carved out by someone in order to allow cats to enter. Now, in normal circumstances, this would not be a big issue, but in this case, it was a big issue for us because it was another way that the owner appeared to allow cats to enter in and out of her home while subjecting those animals to the unsanitary condition of the home. As you can see from this photo, this was a photo of the family room. And as I stated before, we were unable to inspect this room because of the amount of various items that was littered in this room. We did find that there was a hole in the corner of this room, in the ceiling, that seemed to at one time have been patched, but also seemed to have been coming undone due to an unknown reason. The next video I am about to play for you is the kitchen. In that shelf there, that was believed to be the electrical panel, but our contractor, Taylor Johnson, was unable to touch or inspect this due to the amount of feces, roach feces that was covering it. As you can see in the trash can, it's littered with pests. The purpose of this photo is to help detail to you the amount of infestation. The black dots on the floor, if you look closely in this photo, were of the pest that had been killed by our exterminator by a spray that he used and Nuvon strips that were hung. It also shows how much deterioration was happening to the floor that led into the kitchen. The cabinets, as shown in the video and in this photo, were heavily covered in roach feces. This was determined by Mr. Jimmy Lynn from Surety Exterminating to have taken years of neglect for it to get to look this way. The photo that you are seeing now is a photo of the cabinets that were located under the sink. As you can see, the plumbing is also covered with roach feces, and there appears to be a hole in the bottom of the shelf of the cabinet, which of course our contractor, Taylor Johnson, was unable to touch or inspect. The next video I'm going to play for you is the dining room. What Jimmy is pointing at was a bucket. Under that bucket was wood planks, and under the wood planks was a hole in the floor. The bucket was to catch any type of rain that would have came through the hole that was in the dining room. As you can see, it is a narrow path to walk through in this dining room area. So the above photos help in showing not only the narrow path that we were walking through, but also the various extension cords that were littered throughout this path, as well as the condition of the floor. As you can see in the second photo, the floor, we were able to kind of we had gloves on our hand, we were able to touch it and it just crumbled in our hands from deterioration and just the lack of taking care of it. The next video that I'm going to play for you is the foyer in the hallway of the home. What you're looking at is another view of the family room that we were unable to enter due to the clutter. While we were standing in the foyer. This was a refrigerator that was also at the edge of the living room, the family room, that was covered in spider webs due to non-use. we have the camera looking up at the ceiling because while we were in the home, above us, the ceiling was littered with not just dust, but spiders. Not sure if they were crawling or not, but a lot of them at that point, due to the Nuvon strips, were dead. In this photo, it's imperative for you to see that the roach feces weren't just in the cabinets, it was everywhere. This is in the first photo, it's a knob that I believe it was in the foyer, and it was covered in roach feces. We were unable to touch it. You could see in the second photo in the crevices of the door framings, it was covered in roach feces. The next video that I'm going to play for you is the bathroom. One of the things that it was unfortunate that the video did not show, but the photos showed, was the water damage that was around the tub area. Also, in the first photo, you will see that there is no, basically the floor was not protected from water at all. It was, that basically allowed the floor to be susceptible to any water damage or any type of, if they were using the bathroom, any type of damage from water, it allowed the floor to be susceptible to that. This is another photo of around the bathtub. Ms. Mayo did inform us that she had had someone that she had hired to try to come and do the tile work and put in a new tub. As you notice, the tub itself did not have really any damage or any type of unsanitary to the tub itself. She informed us that the gentleman that she had hired, unfortunately, for some reason could not or just would not come back to complete his job. But that still left that area open to a lot of deterioration from water damage. The next video that I'm about to play for you is, if you look on your overall layout, is what we call bedroom 2. As you can see, that is not dust. Those are spiders, dead spiders that were hanging from the ceiling while we were in there. The purpose of these photos in this slide is to just show you the pathway, just the amount of space we had to walk in this photo. in this room. There was no mattress in this bedroom. This room was only, the only things that were in this, this room was only cluttered with various items. It did not have any type of furniture to sleep on. It was only thing in this room was just various items from the owner. The next video that I'm about to play for you is bedroom 1. Here, Jimmy is showing us, the bed did have, it was found that the bed did have roaches crawling throughout it. He was showing us that those pests had been killed. It was found that there was no bed bugs in this home due to the infestation of German cockroaches. As you can see, this part of the video, one of the reasons why we put the camera up to the ceiling fan is for you to just be able to see that cup actually was dead roaches that were in that cup. That's why he was showing us. But the ceiling fans were littered with just dust and spiders and anything that you imagine from not cleaning. So these two photos are on this slide. They're imperative to show you. The last time that we showed you this door, it was infested with roaches. That picture was shown to you during the search warrant section. As you can see, those roaches are now gone, thanks to our exterminator. But what was in the closet was what we did not show you during the search warrant. As you can see, it was found during the minimum housing inspection that there is nothing in this closet other than boxes and papers, and I think at the top, it's not shown, there was trophies up there, just various items of things from the owner that was in this bedroom closet. So, the result of my minimum housing inspection. Of course, Chapter 95 covered public nuisance to health and safety. Of course, as you know, as we went over the property, the property had a type of grass called kudzu, and it was found to be heavily overgrown on the side of the home, especially at the back of the home. An accumulation of rubbish in the carport was that caused the accumulation of stagnant water was found, as well as the storage of furniture that was not manufactured for outdoor use was also found to be a violation of Chapter 95, Public Nuisance to Health and Safety. Chapter 90, nuisance vehicle, of course, as we mentioned, the white Lincoln discovered in the front of the home. The tag was expired, and there was heavy growth of weeds and vegetation located around the vehicle. Chapter 153.10, condition rendering dwelling unfit for human habitation. My findings resulted in there being a lack of adequate ventilation, unsanitary facilities, as far as the bathroom, the kitchen, being badly damaged and infested with roach feces. The bedrooms, there was mattress stains, roaches found to be on the bed, side windows were broken, HVAC vents were covered in dust and spider webs. There was also part of this chapter which makes it mandatory for all homes in the town of Zebulon to have running water. As we mentioned before, the running water was just turned on August 4th, 2017, after the last payment being made in 2013. The owner was also, or the home was also in violation when it came to this chapter as far as heating requirements and extension cords. Chapter 153.11, Standards and Requirements for Fitness. The home was found to be in violation due to the hole in the roof that was above the front window, causing serious water damage to the ceiling. There was loose fascia on the front of the home or the roof, as well as the back of the home. The windows, doors, and screens, the side window panes where cats were getting in were found to be broken, not weather-tight or watertight or rodent-proof. They were not in good condition. The window casing in the back of the home was found to be badly damaged, possibly from termites. The window screen in the back of the home was loose. There was no screen on the side window. The window frame was in bad repair. The flooring, as you saw from the photos, was found to have holes, excessive cracks, not rodent-proof, worn through. It was damaged from heavy ammonia on the floors. The bathroom flooring had the toilet floor surface and bathroom floor surface was not maintained to be reasonably impervious to water. There was exposed wood in the bathroom, and it was found to be heavily damaged and rotted from water. The ceilings or portions of the ceilings were found to have holes which permitted air to penetrate the room. There was sagging, loose sheetrock, and it was susceptible to falling. The home was also, when it came to this chapter, the home was also in violation of accessory structures, heating, electrical. When we get to chapter 153.20, the responsibility of the occupant, as you could see from the video and the photos, the dwelling unit was not found to be kept in clean and sanitary conditions. Plumbing and other fixtures were not found to be kept in clean and sanitary conditions. The owner was not found to have been responsible for taking care of the extermination of the pests and rodents. The garbage in the home was not found to be kept in an approved garbage receptacle. The owner was found to also be in violation of placing on the premises fire hazard materials or materials which could endanger the health and safety of the occupants. The material that was found on the premises also was in violation of harboring insects, rodents, and/or pests. Also, for chapter 153.21, it is the owner was found to be in violation to have placed near the fireplace a non-vented cook stove or heater, which is a fire hazard. So, after completing the minimum housing inspection and the inspection from Taylor Johnson, he gave us a cost estimate of $63,264. That cost estimate included labor and materials and any unforeseen problems that may happen during the course of completing the project or the renovations to this home.
I'm sorry, is there an exhibit in here that itemizes what that involves?
The cost estimate? Actually, I'm sorry?
Is there a breakdown of what?
Right. When Taylor Johnson comes to speak, he will be giving you a breakdown of that cost. He will be going through as far as sheetrock, electrical, how much each thing cost. In the next slide, you'll see Wake County real estate data. This is where we this is the, where we used to get our information as far as the building values and the land values. What we are concerned with, of course, was the building value. That's what our ordinance asks, as well as general statutes, and we'll go over that shortly. The building value of this home was $60,772. So with that cost, it was, I had to determine whether, from my findings and from that cost, whether this home was considered deteriorated or dilapidated. As you can see, deteriorated definition means a dwelling that is unfit for human habitation and can be repaired, altered, or improved to comply with all minimum standards established by Chapter 153.11 of this chapter at a cost not in excess of 60% of its value, as determined by findings of the building inspector. Dilapidated definition is a dwelling that is unfit for human habitation and cannot be repaired, altered, or improved to comply with all the minimum standards established by Chapter 153.11 of this chapter at a cost not in excess of 60% of its value as determined by the findings of the building inspector. So, in looking at those definitions and the cost estimate that we got from the contractor, Taylor Johnson, the third item that I also had to consider was what general statute states. General Statute 160A-443 states that if, after notice and hearing, the public officer determines that the dwelling under consideration is unfit for human habitation, he shall state in writing his findings of fact in support of that determination, and shall issue and cause to be served upon the owner thereof an order if the repair, alteration, or improvement of the dwelling cannot be made at a reasonable cost in relation to the value of the dwelling. The ordinance of the city may fix a certain percentage of this value as being reasonable. Of course, as I told you, as I read to you in the slide before, that was 60%. Requiring the owner within the time specified in the order to remove or demolish such dwelling. The statute also states if it is determined that the repair of the dwelling to render it fit for human habitation can be made at a cost not exceeding 50% of the then current value of the dwelling, the ordinance shall require that the owner either repair or demolish and remove the dwelling within 90 days, or if it is determined that the repair of the dwelling to render it fit for human habitation cannot be made at a cost not exceeding 50% of the then current value of the dwelling, the ordinance shall require the owner to demolish and remove the dwelling within 90 days. So with the general statute, with the definitions of deterioration or dilapidation, and with the cost estimate, that brought me to a result that the home was considered dilapidated due to the cost of the home being $60,772 and the cost estimate being $63,264. It was obvious to see that the cost to repair the home exceeded, according to the general statute, 50%, and it exceeded, according to our own town ordinance, 60% of the value, thus coming to the conclusion to unfortunately demolish the home. So, for recommendations, staff recommends upholding the code enforcement officer's decision based upon evidence submitted into record. However, staff supports the appellate by giving time to repair the dwelling. Staff suggests the board provide a repair timeline be followed to outline milestones of achievements to ensure the dwelling is being repaired at a reasonable pace and consequences of missed milestones built into the modified order. If the timeline is not followed and the violations are not mitigated by the final deadline, the order for demolishment should be upheld. And at this time, that completes my testimony.
I have a question for clarification of that.
Yes.
If the property owner by chance hit the lottery and could afford to, and wanted to bring it up to code, even if it cost 100% of the value of the structure to do it, and you've deemed it demolishable or deteriorated, can they still have the option to do that?
I'm going to be sworn in.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
State your name and address, please.
Mark Hetrick, 1003 North Arundel. Yes, I mean, I think certainly we would afford the property owner that ability to do that. We certainly don't want them to demolish it, but
Right.
based on the ordinances, that's what, we had to make our recommendation for.
Right, that's 100% of the structure. Okay.
And again,
But that's
as
just the way the
Davita said,
statute reads. I mean, it's the cutoff, 60% of the structure.
that's correct. And as Davita noted, that's based on the Wake County tax.
Deteriorated and dilapidated.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
At this time, I am going to call Officer Jeremy Pulley up to stand.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
State your name and address, please.
My name is Officer Jeremy Pulley, 1001 North Arundel Avenue, Zebulon, North Carolina. So I am here to give my testimony as to what I saw, I've been involved in this process from day one, pretty much. On August 4th, I was requested by planning to stand by with them while they talked to the owner of 114 East Judge Street due to them not having water since 2013. I arrived on scene and met with Ms. DeVita. We went up to the door. I knocked several times. Finally, Ms. Mayo came out. While we were standing there waiting for someone to come to the door, I mean, there was a really extreme odor of ammonia, which in my experience is cat urine. Also, there was a lot of clutter in the garage area, carport area. The grass in the back was about knee-high, overgrown. The vehicle that's in the front yard, I've been an officer here almost 8 years, and it's probably been there 4, sitting in the same spot. So we talked with Ms. Mayo. Ms. DeVita gave her, the explanation of why we were there. Ms. Mayo started becoming a little argumentative, which is, understandable. So Ms. DeVita told her that she would send out a letter to her explaining everything. At that time, we left. On August 10th, I was advised by my lieutenant that they were going to do a search warrant at 114 East Judge Street. I was actually working that day, so being there previously, I went ahead and went there so I could keep track of all the calls. At 9 o'clock, we served the search warrant with Animal Control. We got Miss Mayo and her daughter out of the house. The son did not answer, so I went inside the residence to find him and get him out of the house. He was found asleep on the bed in the bedroom. There was no covers or anything on the mattress. In my brief walkthrough of the house, just to get him out of the house, I observed cat urine on the floor, extreme odor of ammonia throughout the whole house. You could barely see in a couple of the rooms, holes in the floor, holes in the ceiling. We got him out and they conducted the search warrant. Animal control went in, tried to get as many cats as there was. There was cats everywhere. While we were standing outside with Miss Mayo and her family, there was a couple cats that kept going in and out of the hole in the roof. Cats going in the side window, out of the side window. Cats running around outside. I don't know how many cats they got. I'm sure animal control will tell you total. This has not been the first time we've been called over there to that house for cat issues. In 2013, we were called there on August 31st for possible animal cruelty to cats. The officer got there, didn't find anything animal cruelty wise. So it's been known throughout the neighborhood that they have cats and cats do whatever they want to basically. So in looking at some of the cats, I'm not an animal expert by no means, but I've been a cop for a long time and I've seen a lot of stuff. And the cats look bad. You obviously could see it had fleas. So after the search warrant, I stayed outside with the family until the search warrant was done. And then I went inside the house with the planning department to look at all the damage. In the roof, there were several holes, as you saw in all the pictures. I mean, I don't need to go through all that again. But in 7.5 years of being an officer, I've been in thousands of homes, I'm sure, throughout my career. It's one of the worst ones I've been in, honestly. So August 14th, I got called back out to the house to stand by with Miss Mayo to retrieve belongings. Planning department gave her permission to go back in the house and get belongings, just necessities, clothes, hygiene items, medications. So I stood by with them and they got clothes out of trash bags and out of containers. Never once saw them get anything out of like a dresser or anything. And that was the last time I went to the house, but a couple of more officers have been there since doing the same thing. They're going to get property. And every time we go there, that odor's still there. It hasn't gone away. The cats have been probably gone for a little while now. And the odor is still very strong of ammonia throughout the whole house. So I can't give you my opinion of what needs to happen. That's on the planning department. But do y'all have any questions?
Board have any questions for Officer Pulley?
I do.
Go ahead.
Did you say you escorted Miss Mayo and the children out?
Yes.
At one time, I think she said Miss Mayo and the children, and then later I think she said adult children. Of what age are they?
They're I'm not completely sure. 20 and 23, so adult children. Yeah. It's her children.
They're of legal age.
Yeah.
They're not endangering
Correct.
themselves by being. She's not endangering them by them living there. That's their choice.
That's their choice. Correct.
I have a question. Do they have any lights in the house?
I can't testify to that. I'm not sure, to be honest with you.
Because I didn't hear anything, say anything about any lights. They talked more about the ceiling.
Yeah. Well, what I saw, the lights weren't on when I went there, that I noticed, and I can't recall if they were or not, to be honest with you. But like everybody else has said so far, I mean, the holes in the ceilings were, I thought the house was going to cave in, honestly, a couple times.
I rode by on the way here, and there was a light burning in the living room. I don't know if it was a lantern or whatever, but there was a light on inside of the house.
I believe throughout the inspections that we performed, I think there were lights on in 2 of the rooms. We didn't try to flip switches or anything, but we did notice at least some lights were on at some point. But a lot of I think the videos and some of the pictures, when the windows were boarded up and when cardboard boxes were placed over the windows, it made it dark inside. So that's why it was kind of hard to see throughout some of the rooms.
In one of the videos, the ceiling lights were on a chandelier in one of the videos.
Yes, that dining room, yes.
Any other questions from the board? All right, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Your next witness?
The next witness that I would like to call is Ms. Karen Rogers from Wake County Animal Control.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth so help you God?
Yes, I do.
State your name and address, please.
My name is Karen Rogers, 820 Beacon Lake Drive, Raleigh. I'm actually the current supervisor for Wake County Animal Control. I've been in that position for 5 years, a little over 5 years. I guess the most important information is the hoarding task force that Davita mentioned. This is a task force that the Wake County Animal Control team has just recently formed over the last 2 years to deal with cases such as this situation at 114 East Lee Street. The purpose for that is to not only go in and assist the animals with a better quality of life, but to assist the people living in the home with a better quality or safer quality of life as well. And in this particular case, it was kind of a prime example of what we do and what we deal with. Initially, we do have the hazmat team enter these homes because the ammonia level in these homes, whether it be cats or dogs, that is formed by the amount of urine and feces in the home, is dangerous for the officers to breathe if it is at a certain level. So the hazmat team is part of that hoarding task force for safety issues. The Raleigh Fire Department is currently the only agency in Wake County that has the equipment to measure those ammonia level readings inside the home. So they initially enter to see that it is safe for the officers to then enter and deal with capturing the animals inside the home. Before we actually initiated the hoarding task force in this case, we did have dealings with Mrs. Mayo. I'll just kind of briefly go through our timeline to let you know how we got there. May 10th of 2017, one of my officers was stopped by someone at a local store who claimed to be a neighbor of Mrs. Mayo. And his complaint, of course, was the amount of cats that were leaving and entering that home were, of course, coming onto his property, digging through his trash, causing damage to his property. Flower beds, vehicles, things like that were being damaged by these cats. So he asked her to make a visit to 114 East Lee Street to check and see basically that if she could, to get the owner to get the cats under control to prevent them from coming onto his property. During that initial visit, and I apologize, the officer that made that visit, she's no longer with our agency. So I do have the written report from our computer system that we use at Animal Control. She states, in her first visit, there were approximately 6 cats outside the home when she arrived on the property. Mrs. Mayo, in speaking to her, informed her that she also had cats inside the home, but would not give her a number of how many cats. Mrs. Mayo did allow Officer Smith to step just inside the back door that you saw coming in from that carport area. And Officer Smith actually said that from there she was able to see a large number of cats. And she did witness the cats coming in and out of the home through that broken window on the carport. She says later in her report that she spoke with Miss Mayo about the fact that she may be overwhelmed with the number of cats in her home, meaning that there may be too many cats there for her to have the time, ability, and possibly finances to care for them properly, and struck up a conversation with her as to some type of resolution that we could assist her with. These are the first steps for our hoarding task force. When we discover a situation such as this, we go in and attempt to establish a relationship with the homeowner, and possibly convince them to allow us to just assist them, lowering the number of animals that they have by them surrendering those animals into our custody so that we can get medical treatment for them and rehome them if possible. So Officer Smith, she was slightly new at the time. She, of course, reported her findings to me. So on May 15th, myself and Officer Smith and several other animal control officers went back to Mrs. Mayo's residence to speak with her. We had actually, had several experiences in building these relationships and attempting to assist in lowering the number of animals. So we went out, had a conversation with Mrs. Mayo as well. While we were on the property, we discussed the hoarding issue. I'm very upfront when we discover a situation like this with the homeowner. Let them know that we do realize it is a hoarding situation, that they do need assistance in several different areas, not just the animals. You could smell the very strong ammonia odor coming from inside the house while you were standing outside on the carport, and that's the initial, for us, reason for knowing or understanding that there is a situation where there's a high number of animals inside the home. Mrs. Mayo, at the time, agreed to surrender 4 cats to us. We were able to talk her into at least giving us 4 of the animals, which was our goal, which we accomplished. We did remove those 4 animals, and they were taken to the Wake County Animal Center. All 4 of those animals were treated for multiple things, slight malnourishment, and of course the flea infestation that had caused issues with their health as well. Because it's been a long exposure with those. Mrs. Mayo advised us that if we would come back in several days, that she may at that point be able to decide which other cats she would release to us. We still were unable to find out what the total number of cats were. We returned to the property then on May 18th. On May 18th, she surrendered 3 more cats. But she still wouldn't allow us inside the home or give us a number of total cats she had. Those 3 cats were also taken to the Wake County Animal Center, treated for basically the same issues, malnourishment. Some of them were anemic due to the amount of fleas and the extended period of time that they were exposed to them. May 24th, we returned to the property again. Ms. Mayo agreed to surrender 3 more cats. She advised that there were no more cats inside the home at the time. She allowed us to enter the house briefly. Upon entering the house, the ammonia level was extremely strong in every room. Of course, it was cluttered with debris, boxes, clothing, furniture, various other items. There was a small path leading from the front door through the dining room, the kitchen, and out the back door, which came out at the carport. My officers, both officers and I, made that path very quickly because we weren't sure of the dangers of the ammonia level. And at that time, we did not see any other cats inside the home. The rooms that we could view, walking that small path, there was no movement, or we could determine that there were any cats left at the residence. So at that time, we made the assumption, unfortunately incorrectly, that there were no more cats inside the home. We were unaware that these cats were vacating the home as we would enter, and then as we went outside the home, they would go back in through various entryways with the damage from the roof, the damage from the HVAC system, the hole that was actually cut into the door for the cats to gain access, the broken windows. They were just kind of flooding out and coming back in as we would go back and forth. And then, of course, I was contacted by Davita Moore on August 4th via email. She and I actually then had phone discussions about this situation. She informed us that there were indeed more animals there, that she had witnessed cats being there when she went in for this initial inspection. So at that time, we determined that it was at the level that we did need to gain a search warrant. The search warrants that animal control gets during these cases basically are hoarding search warrants. The magistrate issues them to us according to our experience, what we smell, what we see, and the condition of the animals that we witness while we're on the property. And after a full description to the magistrate of the odor, the amount of animals, and the amount of debris at the home, he was convinced enough that it was a hoarding situation. He did issue the search warrant. And then, of course, we initiated the search warrant with the hoarding task force, and as you saw in some of her information, It was several different agencies, and the purpose of that hoarding task force was to remove the animals, inspect the home, initiate mental health contact for Mrs. Mayo and her 2 adult children, to improve the quality of life for the animals and the human beings as well, and to determine whether that house was safe for human inhabitants. But with our findings in our hoarding case, we did determine that the dwelling was unsafe for the cats to dwell in, so that's the reason the cats were removed by search warrant. So, questions? Oh, and I'm sorry, I should tell you that we did end up with a total of 22 cats from that case. We did have to set traps the afternoon of the search warrant, and we continued to set traps up to August 31st, and continued to catch cats as they returned in and out of the home, because they still had access to go in and out. So we did capture a total of 22. Only 3 of those animals had to be euthanized due to their health conditions. All the other cats, out of that, the 19, were rehomed successfully. So.
I have 3.6 parts per million. How high is that on an ammonia scale? I mean, what is unsafe level?
For us, an unsafe level is 25. At 25 parts per million, our officer is allowed to be in with safety equipment on for 15 minutes, and then we have to come out of the home, be out of the home with fresh air for 15 minutes, and then can re-enter.
So at 3.6 parts per million, how long can you stay in there safely?
With the safety equipment that we had on, we did not have a time limit. The hazmat team did not set a time limit for us to be in the home.
How about for the occupants? I mean, is it...
That, I'll be honest with you.
I don't know what a safe level is.
I don't have the education that goes behind that. The hazmat team is attempting to educate us on that now so that we can further the hoarding task force by understanding a little clearer what the effects, the long-term effects are for the people in that home when they're exposed to those levels for long periods of time. But I don't have that information myself.
This stinks.
And no note or odor was really noticed outside the house. It was primarily just inside?
No, you were able to smell it from outside the home.
You were, okay. From the
and
yard?
I'm assuming that's because there were so many
openings,
damage to the home where that odor was able to escape from the house. So you could smell it from outside the home.
Any other questions from the board members? Thank you. Your next witness.
The next witness that I would like to call is Jimmy Lynn from Surety Exterminating.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
State your name and address, please.
Jimmy Lynn at 2524 South Wilmington Street, Raleigh, North Carolina. Okay. I'm Jimmy Lynn. I run Surety Exterminating Company. It's a family business that my father started back in 1956. So I started working there when I was 13 years old. I could drive a car, do anything I wanted back in those days. So as things progressed, I ended up going to North Carolina State University, got a graduate degree in urban industrial entomology. I continue to work closely with the university through the Extension Entomology Department of Dr. Mike Walvogel. I also work with Dr. Kobe Shaw, who heads up the roach and the bedbug programs at the university. I've worked with the North Carolina Pest Management Association for over 30 years. My father and I were both past presidents. We also, both of us served on the Structural Pest Control Committee, which is the governing body for the pest control industry in the state of North Carolina. So, with that, I was asked to go in and do an inspection on August the 22nd. You may have noticed I was the only one that didn't have a hazmat suit on. I had been in there 2 days earlier, so I was able to get an assessment of what was going on. When I entered the structure, I noticed a significant German roach population. With the extent of what I saw, it had to be a situation that had been there for years. We also noted spiders, granary moths, fungus gnats, fleas. This is something that in our industry, we do see a lot of this situation going on. And of course, we try to address that as the best we can. With this, like I say, a lot of things have happened over the years in our the process of us looking at this. Is one thing is that all that roach feces and roach debris all over the walls. I stay on my management companies all the time about how important it is to keep those, get that cleaned and cleaned off thoroughly. You don't paint over it. You don't, you don't take a scrub brush and hit it and go on. You actually have to get it physically removed because it will attract other roaches. So here again with that, this situation was so broad, just broadly through the entire structure that, I mean, there's just no way that you could go in there and do a cleaning of that and get all that material out of there. I actually talked with one of the professors at the university, as well as a couple other individuals that I work with, and it was our assessment that you actually needed to go in and tear the sheetrock out and get it all the way down to the studs and start it back, or you were going to continue to have more problems. Obviously, when we're doing this type of situation, there's only a minimal amount of control that we can get in something like this. Roaches, the whole thing with roach control is sanitation and clutter. Obviously, in this environment, there was an extreme amount of clutter. It's been our whenever we go out and do these situations like this, it's our experience that once we start trying to remove all the clutter and stuff, we'll find black widows, brown recluse. I mean, there's no telling what you're going to find when you go in on situations like that. So in an effort to try to get some type of control going, I was able to place new Vaughn strips inside the house itself. This is a vapor type material that will penetrate into these areas the best it can, obviously, and give us some type of control on a lot of these other insects, the fleas, the gnats, the granary moths, and of course the spiders. Spiders are some of the hardest insects to control because so little of their body actually touches the surface. We also suggested to go in and do a topical application for the roaches because of the excessive infestation. So we applied a product called Onslaught. This has one of the broadest labels out there. I can treat beds, furniture. I mean, it's something that I was able to go in there and provide a minimal amount of control. We're never going to get control until the place is cleaned up, and then, like I say, as you go through that process, you may have to stop once or twice and retreat because of what's going on. So obviously, when they go in there and start removing all the debris and stuff, you'll want to have the gloves on, the hazmat suits and everything, because these people are going to be picking up things, putting them up against them and stuff to try to get out of there. So here again, we've got a lot of situations that can create problems as we go along. Now, we were unable to inspect the attic. We were unable to inspect the crawl space. So here again, there could be other issues in this particular situation that may show up later on when we're able to go back in there and start removing this. I mean, there's no telling what we're going to see. It is important that all this debris be removed. I know that in situations, a lot of people want to keep a lot of this stuff. We do not agree that they should be able to take it out. What's going to happen is, in the situations we've been involved with, there's a certain mindset with these individuals, and once they take it out, then you got the infestation going to one area, and then it circles back through, the house gets redone or something, they go back in there again, or they go to another area, and you got the same thing going on within another 6 months, another year after that. So it is important in all the situations I've been involved with, if we did not address the issue of the mindset, then of course, like I say, it was just a matter of time before it got back to the same situation again. Now, of course, I did put a note, I put a thing in here about all the diseases and all the issues that German roaches can carry. I mean, when you look at some of these numbers, obviously everybody knows that when this earth goes to heck in a handbag, the only thing, there's always going to be roaches left. They're going to survive no matter what. So, of course, with that, you look at all these areas, a total of 174 bacteria were isolated in 39 German cockroaches in a hospital environment. So here again, you have You have the situation where diarrhea, you have all sorts of stomach ailments that can actually transmit the rashes and things of that nature. I mean, it's amazing what they can pick up on and just really how filthy they are. Now, there's also, in that particular situation that when I went in there, the cup that we showed that had all the roaches deteriorating in it, obviously to get to that point, they had to be dead for years to break down. We've seen over time that these pathogens get into the air, we breathe them in, and of course they can produce asthma and other type of situations relative to that. So here again, there's a number of health issues that are involved with just the roaches alone, not talking about the other issues, the fleas. I mean, there's just so much stuff in there that when you go into one room and it's like going into a whole new world, so to speak. Now, once we did that, like I say, we went back 2 days later. We were able to see some control. But now, since then, the property's been returned back to the tenant, to the owner, and of course, the new bond strips have been removed. If there was any cleaning whatsoever, then obviously they could have removed whatever material was there. So, what little bit of progress we may have made probably is going to be offset by the fact that all this material is no longer there. Of course, with the new bond strips, you only want to be exposed to this material for 2 hours in a 24-hour period. So here again, I wouldn't advise them to stay in there longer than that. But here again, we do not have anything in the structure to control it as far as that goes. Now, I'm also a wildlife damage control agent. What happens is the odors that we were talking about. Now, in August when we had the 1900-degree weather, this material, these odors and stuff will move 3, 4, 5 miles and attract animals all up into the environment. So here again, around there, so here we've got that situation. Right now you've got rodents that are migrating. Every time we have a temperature change, you're going to have different animals trying to find places of harborage. And when the windows are open in the crawl space and there's holes and stuff, obviously that's going to allow animals to come in. So you have that issue there. Now, one thing that I would like to bring to your attention is the fact that as a wildlife damage agent, I receive updates from the Wildlife Commission. We have seen a significant increase in rabies in feral cats. So here again, not only did that situation create a health hazard for the people living there, but it also could create a hazard for the people living around there. If a cat bit them or they got the saliva or something, they could end up with rabies. And if you don't address the issue within a certain amount of days, you don't have any choice, but you're going to die. So, but here again, with this, like I say, we see this type of situation pretty consistently. And, like I say, you've got to address this mindset or it's just going to go right back to where it was before. The roach infestation and just the filth and everything, I mean, I don't conceive of a way that it can actually be thoroughly cleaned without having to go through the whole process of gutting the whole house and starting all over. But here again, that's the decision you guys are out here making. So, any questions?
Yes.
Yes.
I don't know whether to address you or the officer, but did I read that there was also possums caught?
Yes, sir. During the trapping, we also were able to trap possums during that time, too. Sorry. Sorry. Yes, during the trapping, attempting to catch the cats, I believe we trapped 3 possums during that process. So there was active wildlife on the property.
Okay.
As a wildlife individual, I caught 2 raccoons this past weekend. So if those odors are going out and it's a halfway nice day, there's no telling how far that can travel and attract those animals up there. The last thing you want to do is walk in the house and have a raccoon meet you at the door because he's not going to be happy to see you and you're not going to be happy when he makes you leave.
This is for my own information, but said there were no bed bugs, but is it because German cockroaches eat bed bugs.
Well, I'm not really sure I mean, I imagine they might eat some of the dead ones. I do a lot of work with Dr. Kobe Shaw, and that was one thing I talked to him about the other day was I have seen over a period of time, I actually had the second worst house for bed bugs documented by EPA. When you walk into a kitchen, it looked like a war thing. You had the bed bugs on one side, you know, fighting with the roaches. But actually in this situation, in the bed, I mean, it had a pillow top mattress. And where I would normally pull that off and see thousands of bed bugs, I mean, there were so many roaches. It's like I told Dr. Shaw, I said, there's got to be a correlation that at some point in time, the population of either one of them gets so high that the other one can't exist. But I was thoroughly surprised that I didn't see any, but like I say, everywhere I expected to see the bed bugs, there were 500 roaches. So, and then of course, like I say, the biggest thing with the odors and stuff like that is just not only is it the breathing part and everything like that, it's just so unhealthy for the people living there. So, but that should, you know, that's cover about what I got to talk about. So.
Thanks, sir.
Okay, thank you.
I have
You have a question? Go ahead.
I did not see any mention of, is there any evidence of termites?
We were not able to get to the understructure to even look. Because yes, I mean, we don't know if there was any termite damage. We don't know if there was any, you got powder post beetles, you got subterranean termites, you got animals that could have been underneath there for that matter. All sorts of situations. Moisture. Whenever we get situations like this with a lot of shrubbery and it cuts down the amount of flow underneath there, the decay and stuff from fungi underneath there, I mean, it can do more damage than termites do.
So has a home inspector been under there?
Nobody's been underneath there.
Nobody's suited.
No. So that's one thing, you know, I've talked with Taylor about is, you know, if we get access to it again, you know, we'll be able to, I go underneath there with him. I feel like there ought to be at least two people.
It's not a slab house,
No,
is it? There is a
slab.
crawl
It's crawl
space.
space.
Okay.
It does have a crawl space.
The crawl space, the entrance into the crawl space was located in the outside storage area. And if you remember the photos that I shown, that storage area was so packed with clutter. It was our hope that we could get in there, but there was no way to get in there due to the amount of clutter there.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
The next witness that I would like to call is Taylor Johnson from from Better Off Construction.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
State your name and address, please.
Taylor Johnson, 115 Salter Way, Zebulon, North Carolina. Again, my name is Taylor Johnson. I'm the owner of Better Off Construction. I've been in the construction field and business since I was about 17 years old. I started Better Off Construction 3 years ago. After leaving the town, the Public Works Department, which I was there for several years, and did a lot of work for the town, in this building in particular, from the basement to next door. So this is what we do our job for, you know, what we mainly do is construction, residential, small commercial. On the 24th of August, I entered the home of Miss Mayo. Granted, I was not there to depict any of the feces or the smells. I was there to look at the construction of the home itself. And there I pretty much found, we're going to start with like the interior walkthrough that I walked, and what we found was in the rooms itself, as far as, I guess it's in the, let's see here, I have it listed as one thing, and I have it listed as another. When you walk in the door that is underneath the carport, I'm assuming I'm going to call that the rear entrance. There was excessive signs of damaged ceiling, floors, and walls, as we all seen in the pictures. Same thing throughout every room in the structure. As far as the floors, the floors were saturated, the floors had holes, the floors were spongy, the floors had holes you could see through the outside. Same thing with the walls in one particular area in the bathroom. There was mainly excessive damage to feces on the flooring. Whenever you go to walk through on the walls, all the sheetrock was feces from top to bottom. Same thing with the wood paneling that was in the rear room where we seen the chair and most of the debris. Same thing with the flooring as we spoke. The windows were rotten. The window seals were pretty much deteriorated, gone from inside and out in several window locations. The plumbing that we could see from inside the home underneath the kitchen sink and the bathroom sink, assumed was workable, but needs very much assisting to fix what issues are probably going to be there with the plumbing. As far as what's inside of the plumbing, what's went into the P-traps, etc. Electrical outlets. I did try to turn on one outlet and one outlet only. Didn't get anything to work in the home. Didn't really touch a whole lot of stuff, just did a formal walkthrough. But what I could tell from the electrical panel that was inside the cabinet was covered in feces. We did not mess with that at all. Most of the switches that we've seen that I did try to turn on did not work anything. One of them actually worked the fan, but the fan motor I'm assuming was fixing to go because it would barely turn. The outlets, same thing, covered with roaches, feces. They weren't grounded outlets either, so they need to be brought up to the day's code with having a grounded outlet plug on there. The HVAC, as we've seen in one of the pictures, the HVAC, the vent was covered with all types of debris. So that would go in my assumption to say that you would have to have the ductwork removed, replaced, not cleaning it. Same thing with the returns. The returns going to suck in all that. The returns going to suck in the smell, it's going to suck in everything, it's going to pull it right back through. You need to replace everything. Same thing goes with the insulation in the walls, insulation in the ceilings. We're assuming there's blown-in insulation in there, but we couldn't examine the attic to make that assumption or make that opinion. But all the insulation that's behind the sheetrocks in the stud walls needs to be replaced as well, because if there's holes in the walls, there's feces getting behind there and insects as well, making homes, deteriorating the insulation itself, not getting the R value that it needs. As far as an exterior walk around, as that's going to say, we started on the roof. We noticed where the fire department had covered a hole on the roof to keep the cats from coming in or out. But that wasn't the only spongy spot. There was, throughout the whole roof, there was a lot of spongy spots, especially where it was littered with pine straw, especially on the south side of the home. I removed some of that pine straw just to examine what I could examine from the shingles above. And it was spongy from just lack of not getting the pine straw off, and then the algae that was built up on the shingle roof. So and I estimated with the walk on the roof about 20 sheets of OSB plywood would need to be replaced. Unforeseen rafters. If you've got holes in the roof, you got some wet rafters. You splice them, you sister them, how you do it, it's got to be replaced. The wood trim, the fascia and soffit was rotten from neglect, from overgrown debris, the kudzu in the back. A lot of it can be from where you have the buildup of pine straw and sticks on the roof, and the water is going to not drain in that spot. It's going to contract to one little area and make its way down, and it's going to build up a lot of water in the area and rot the fascia, rot the soffit. There are holes in the roof, cause the rain to go through and run along the soffit, creating a pattern of length of rottenness. Exterior doors, we noticed. One of the exterior doors that was actually the front door didn't have it wasn't workable. It didn't have a doorknob. So fire hazard, you couldn't get in or out, especially out if you needed to get out. We noticed the other door leading into the outside storage shed, where all the clutter was at, that door it moved in about maybe 2 feet, maybe 1.5 feet, where you could just see in there, so doors need to be replaced on the exterior. The chimney, as we were on the roof, the chimney itself was capped off to prevent any animals from entering or exiting. But it had several loose bricks and mortar and flashing coming up around the chimney. In addition to the home, as far as the shed addition, you really can't get in there to examine it, if it's up to today's code. You couldn't make that assumption. I didn't make that assumption. Just something that would need to be looked at whenever you could enter it to find out that if it's up to today's code. Let's see. There's a possibility in the ceiling, if there is blown-in insulation, that it's going to contain asbestos. So that would be have to be treated at that time and checked and tested to see how you would move forward with the project. Couldn't get in the attic. Don't know if it is. The age of the home gives me that assumption that it's going to be asbestos in the ceiling. There was no ceiling tiles, just sheet rock. So I know the ceiling tiles in those homes of that age do contain asbestos. So it can contain asbestos if there's blown-in insulation. There's that possibility. In my overview of this, in just the knowledge that I've done in the construction field that I've been in, you don't go in there and you don't clean, you don't wipe down. There are circumstances where you can do that. This one you cannot. This one is what I call a gut to the bone structure. You remove cabinets, you remove countertops, you remove the sheetrock ceiling. You remove everything to the joist, everything to the studs. Same thing with the flooring. The subfloor in a couple spots, you could see where there were holes. We lifted up that bucket and moved the wooden slats. The subfloor was gone as well. So in this line of work, this is what I would recommend, was basically take everything down to wooden studs, everything down to floor joists, everything down to ceiling joist, and then have a licensed contractor come in there and treat it before you put anything back. And then you would start over from point A with insulation, sheetrock, painting, drywall, flooring, etc. I do have a price breakdown of what it would cost to repair the home and each, pretty much in the sheetrock, and the paint, the flooring, if you would like me to read that.
Is that an exhibit we can enter?
Yeah, if you could, do you have a copy of that you could share with us?
I can make a copy. They can make a copy.
Do you want to run through it?
I can run through it. I mean, it's not that long. I mean, I can run through it. Then if you want to make a copy.
Let's do that. Run through it, and then we can make copies for us.
Okay. The sheetrock, now, I'm not going to, whenever we say sheetrock walls, we understand this every room, walls only, not ceiling. But to remove all the sheetrock, and keep this in mind, this is all hazmat gear to remove anything in the home. We're going to be in gloves, suits, respirators, boots, gloves. That slows process. You get hot, you get tired. I'm big, I get out of breath. So you're going to be in and out, in and out. So the price for the sheetrock walls, material and labor, remove, install, you're looking at $8,145. To remove all the wood paneling in the home that was in the sitting room, looking at $600. The sheetrock ceiling, to remove and install, and these prices include finishing and painting. The sheetrock ceiling will be $4,140. The flooring, to remove all the existing hardwood flooring and subflooring down to the floor joist, includes jacking up the weight-bearing walls to remove the plywood out from under those, where somebody would skip that and they leave them underneath the bottom plate. We don't do that. To put new subfloor and new hardwood floor back in that home, that price is $9,350. The interior doors, to remove and replace every interior door, including hardware, including closet doors, pantry doors, the HVAC door, you're looking at $1,260. The plumbing, in my judgment, a replumb is what would need to be done. Take out, put back, R&R, $5,200. The electrical outlets we've seen, witnessed, I wouldn't use them. They had drop cords ran, so I'm assuming some outlets maybe didn't work. But I just know in this field that if it's that bad, you're going to want to do a basic gut of the home and reinstall new electrical at $5,800. To remove and install the walls and all the ceiling insulation, including blown-in ceiling and R-valued paperback insulation for the walls, is $2,840. To remove and replace all the trim back in the home, from doors to windows, $2,250. The HVAC to renew it we don't know if I do not know if the AC works, but there's a chance that it may or may not, maybe can repaired. But the price to fix the HVAC, at least the duct and at least the returns, I have at $4,500. To replace all the windows that were broken, that weren't inoperable, $2,000. Let's see. Now we're going to back up 1 second here to the wall and ceiling insulation. That was not removing, that was actually installing. The labor to remove all the insulation was $1,350. Exterior roofing, 30 square shingles, 20 half-inch pieces of OSB plywood, unforeseen rafters. So basically this cost here would be what I know is bad, not kind of what else could be bad. $10,550 for the total roof. All the wood trim, fascia and soffit, and paint on the exterior of the home is $3,710. Exterior doors, there's 2 plus 1 on the storage, outside storage unit, $1,170. The chimney sweep, to fix the mortar, fix the loose brick, and to have a chimney, the chimney, but have somebody come and do a chimney sweep to it, and then fix the mortar and the loose bricks, $400. Let's see. Any of the debris that's construction related is removed and hauled off at all that cost is included in here. This price does not include any of the contents being removed by me or my company. This is, if we have to move the contents, store it, put it in a dumpster or a pack rat, that'll be an additional cost. The prices are subject to increase due to uncertain circumstances in the working environment. We may get there and see there's a really bad infestation somewhere and we can't work there. Well, my guys are getting paid. So I have to have a licensed exterminator come in and spray. So that's the circumstances that may change hourly rates. If this project will be a 6 to 8 week turnaround project from start to finish. And let's see. As far as the plumbing goes, back to the plumbing, if that water's been turned off since 2013. If you have a home at that age, the pipes have about done their job. They're exhorted. If you have your water turned off and it's been off for 3.5, 4 years, and pipes that old, and you turn that water back on, that jolt, it sends back through your lines. Every time I've ever worked on one, it always leaked. It blew out on me somewhere. There's possibilities of leaks under the home that we could not get to, could not access, could not look at. So there's more estimated cost in here that is unforeseen that we just do not know. I didn't want to make any assumptions on floor joists, any assumptions on plumbing underneath the home. I wasn't there to make assumptions. I was there to physically see. So that's pretty much the report that I had from there.
So 63,264 is what you foresee, not the unforeseen. I mean, you could have to replace floor joist or
Correct. That's
rafters.
unforeseen, yes, sir. And it's an estimate.
And you
yes.
won't know till you get in there.
Correct, underneath, yes, sir.
Yeah, your estimate or price would be the minimal
Yes, sir.
price. It could go far above that depending upon what else you found.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, because your rates are very reasonable compared to what I've seen. But
Right.
did you bring up abatement? Because you brought up that there'd be asbestos in the blown-in insulation, but a house from 1950 is going to have asbestos in the popcorn ceiling, all over. I mean, your abatement cost, I've seen other houses demo, the abatement cost alone is $15,000 to $20,000.
Yes, there was no popcorn in the ceilings in this home.
Okay.
It looked like it'd either been scraped or been repaired many, many times. So that would be, if we got in there and we were messing with the ceiling and we found out that there was asbestos in the insulation, then of course we would have to assess it, checking for more asbestos at that time. And then that would be definitely an additional cost to remove it properly.
So in your opinion, being a brick home, I mean, the bricks themselves seem to be in decent shape, so you have a good shell.
The shell seemed fine, as for what I could see. Now, you tell a lot more about a home underneath it.
Correct.
You can see if there's been a lot of water been penetrating the brick, but the shell seemed fine. It's the interior structure is the issue.
And foundation appeared to, outside foundation.
For what we could tell now, what I seen was the foundation vents. When you have kudzu growed up, when you have a kudzu that's growed up, it ain't venting. Some of those vents were open, some of the vents were closed. In a perfect world, we'd love to went under there and seen exactly if it was great bones under there, if it was bad bones.
You'd have cracks in mortar joints if you had foundation problems.
Correct. I didn't see any step cracks along the foundation anywhere. Didn't see, only separation I've seen of any type of sort would be where the outside storage building was attached to the home. Again, it could be up to code, but it's just hard to tell without actually getting in the home and seeing it.
In your expert opinion, if you were to take this project on, you would, number one, want to go in the crawl space, and number two, in the attic, would
Yes,
you
sir.
not?
Yes, sir. Correct.
Would it be cheaper for you to demo the home and rebuild a new structure? I'm just asking that question because you're telling me that very little of the home is salvageable in the current condition.
Right.
You're taking the hope that there's some joists that are available that are still good, maybe some of the plumbing, but a home that is 60 plus years old, even if it was taken care of, would be getting near the end of its life cycle before a total gut.
Correct.
So,
in my opinion, I would not try to repair it.
okay. Thank you.
I got one more question about that, and that's about the removal of the contents. Is that considered hazardous material because of the infestation that's in everything that's stored in the house? Is there?
Whenever me and Ms. Moore spoke about that on the 24th when I was there, we said that you'd have to me, it all needs to be thrown away.
Right.
But
can you take it to the dump?
You could
with all that in it.
You could take it to the landfill, yes, but I'm not assuming. I'm assume anything, but I know that I've taken several jobs in this discretion before to the landfill, just not quite that extent. Only thing that, of course, cannot go is anything that's going to be asbestos.
Any other questions from the board? And we always reserve the right to come back to you during cross-examination.
Thank you.
Taylor, I need your estimate, please. That would be Exhibit B.
Yeah, if you could give that to us, she'll make copies for us, and it'll be entered as Exhibit B. Any other witnesses?
I do not have any other witnesses at this time.
Okay. Any other questions for Ms. Moore or Mr. Hedrick? If not, could we have the petitioner?
We have a bathroom break before we...
We have a 5-minute break has been requested, so we'll go to 10-minute recess.
And let me just remind everybody in attendance, because this is a sort of quasi-judicial proceeding, just to advise the board to avoid any contact. Any discussion of this with either between yourselves or with anybody in the audience.
We're to stand down for 10 minutes. Be back at 8:25.
Thank you.
Thank you, Larry.
I don't know. Now, mine wasn't frozen. I tweaked it in martial arts accident.
I didn't see the presentation.
Too far back. When I tapped out, it didn't stop. So it'll crack like that all the time. And it'll just,
the applicant's going.
both of them do it like every now and then. I'll just have to sit here and kind of stretch them out. So it's not been frozen, but it's been. I worked at City Hall in the paper. So. It's just put it that way. It's gonna be up for the rest of my life. But it's stiff. Yeah, it's stiff, and that's why because it starts to burn. He has a breakdown in the email. Do you want me to go get that email?
It's a lot. I literally told him I didn't get finished till we started a little after 6. I didn't get finished till a little after 7. So I did a good job. I'm tired. I still got a long week. In a 5-minute break, she hasn't even came to speak yet. I know she's about to crush me.
It was not typed up for that.
Nancy made some type of remedy for me with Mackenzie. And she made some type of remedy for me. It's cinnamon. And water. And I haven't. I've only coughed like this. You want to taste it? Maybe not yet. Yeah. Yeah, you're right.
We've got 7 here.
I'll just be looking straight up front. And
Much appreciated. How are you this evening? Good, how are you doing? Good. Yeah.
I didn't have time to go home. They're in my office on my chair. It's ready though. It's good. No more. Let me see if we have any chance.
Yeah, that's my question.
Actually, I saw him yesterday. Oh, here. First time I've seen him in 2 years. Really? Yeah. It's been that long.
Time flies.
Joe, this building used to look
It is. I haven't quite figured out about that thing if,
No.
are the people still in there? Is it occupied now or are they in violation and it's occupied? I couldn't quite determine this.
And I'm not aware to talk about.
Was that something we haven't discussed yet?
I did good. It was a long time.
I saw something about
Huh?
Bingo.
I saw whether they find if they're in violation.
No, I'm good. I don't want
Forcibly
to.
removed.
No, I'm good. Lisa gave me that pill. I took this stuff. I've been drinking that. I'm all done.
Oh, yeah.
Tracy's my sister, Bobby Michael.
Your shoes are all running and everything.
Oh, yeah.
What happened?
Oh, yeah, right.
I know you were mad. Well, they about to start. Oh, okay. In here.
Does it have the?
I haven't been down that street in Halo. I didn't know down that house. Boy, that sure did away with kickback something.
Oh, yeah.
Burn it. I didn't think they could do that anymore, burn it in controlled burns in the city limits.
Look, she need to go to the doctor. She need to go to the doctor. It's just another exercise.
This was the one that's right.
I bet you should have floated in the just everything in.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, the 2-minute warning.
Last call. Turn the light showing you.
Yes, I was gonna bring this to show Joe Moore. I haven't seen him.
Mark thinks, you know, if she doesn't have any questions that she speaks, like I said before, once they start deliberating, while they're deliberating, you should be good to go.
Exhibit B.
Does she need to ask permission before she leaves? She need to let them know?
Exterior doors.
I guess before it starts, we could. You want to do that?
They said they wasn't.
You want to say that? You're good.
Okay, if we could reconvene. What has been passed out during our break is we have the cost estimate entitled Exhibit B. So if we could add that to everybody's packet.
Thank you.
And do you have any questions on the exhibit now that you actually see the cost estimate? If not now, we can always ask later. So at this point in time, if we could have the petitioner come forward. Oh, Mark, yes?
Chairman, can I just make one comment? If the petitioner or anyone else has any questions for the animal control officers, we would like to kind of get that, if there's any questions for them, they're here to answer it. If not, if we can, excuse them, that would be good.
Okay. We'll get the petitioner up here first, and I'll be able to ask them as well as the board. So we'll get them up here and swear them in.
Thank you.
Then I'll ask.
And if we have questions, to go back to the estimate on the cost and recall.
We can do that after this next testimony.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
We could have you approach the podium, and we'll have you sworn in one at a time.
Left hand on the Bible, raise your right hand, please. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
State your name and address, please.
Virginia Mayo, 114 Eastern Street in Zebulon.
Okay. If I could ask you, do you have any question for the animal control officers? Otherwise, we can release them.
No, not really. She just said she would work with me and she didn't do it, so. She just said that she would, go and come and she would help me with the cats and stuff like that, but that never happened.
Okay. Weren't all the cats removed?
Yes.
Okay.
But the cats was in very good condition, and we do have pictures of them. And we did love them, but, we didn't know she was gonna come in like that. She said that as long as I let her in the house, that she wouldn't do it, but she did it anyway. All we know is we just woke up to a warrant. And we had to go outside the house, And I'd already let her in before. She said I might have 300 cats in the house. I said, I don't have 300 cats. So I let her in. I said, the house is in repairs, what I told her, which was going on. Because the shed had fell and we had brought a lot of stuff in. But the kitchen, we had not been into the kitchen for years. And I'm raised out here. I'm not really used to cockroaches, and I'm allergic to the spray. But I had no idea because we had not gone into I didn't go into the kitchen for a long time because sometimes I, help my mom or my brother. I'm just constantly busy. So kids were in school. And I turned 60, they turned 20, so, and I have arthritis chronically, so I've just been doing the best I can. And I did state that the house was not in a good condition. And I did ask them not to enter the home until we get all the stuff up, but this never happened. She just came with the search warrant and then Mr. Vita, so I apologize. We got it all up and we're not gonna do that anymore. It wasn't meant like that anyway. It's just that we was doing stuff and we was moving stuff and the weather was very hot. And it was like where we couldn't move anything else. And by the time they came, that's just the way it was. And they went through stuff. It really didn't look like that. They went through the stuff first, and then Mr. Vita came, and then she took pictures. But stuff was not strewn all over. It was like piled up. But I told her that the house was in repairs, and the kitchen cabinets and all that stuff was going to be replaced. But, it just happened like this, so I apologize.
If you don't have any other questions for the two, or wildlife, or what is your actual title? Animal control, excuse me. If you have no questions for them and the board has no further questions for them, we will allow you to go. We'll release you to.
Thank you for coming.
Yes, thank you.
Ma'am, I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name when you...
Virginia Mayo.
Oh, you're Virginia Mayo. You're the owner, not the tenant.
My brother and myself are the owner of 114.
Right, but you're not the occupant.
Yeah, I was occupying it off and on, like, we have another place.
Okay.
But we have another place too, but, we have another place because that one, the shed fell and we brought a lot of stuff inside the home.
I just didn't catch your name.
Yes.
Okay. We'll let you continue with your testimony and let us hear your side of the story.
It's just that I had said to them to let us get this, we was in the middle of repairs. And we told them not to enter the home, but they entered the home anyway. And she said that she was coming in to help, that there was programs and stuff like that, and that she could help us, get the stuff done. When she entered, she just said that she was gonna take pictures, to make sure of what the damages were. But when the pictures were taken, and it showed how bad the house was, I apologize about it. It wasn't like that. It's been towed up. The house was placed in the house was placed good. But when they came in for the cats, they tore a lot of stuff up. I didn't even recognize some of it myself because she came in after the cat lady, after the pound. But, like I said, I had stated to her that it was under repairs. I had just did a hot water heater. I had done things to the home, and I explained to her that I'm the owner, it was under repair, but she still entered the home anyway. She still did. All that stuff I was taking out. I was not gonna leave it, surely I was not. Half of it is gone now, like most of it is gone. I'm not gonna do that, I'm sorry. The shed fell, we brought stuff in because we couldn't leave it out. The kitchen, I hadn't went into the kitchen for years. It really shouldn't have looked like that, but anybody would tell you, when you're from North Carolina, you don't really have cockroaches. They migrated from people moving. I didn't even know that was in the cabinet because I never looked. I'm just being honest, we just never looked, and I'm sorry. All that stuff is gonna be gutted, thrown out, and I'm just gonna comply with everything, and I do apologize that it did lead to, coming before you all. And I just want a chance to make good of everything. The floor is good, there's no damages on the wall. The house do have crown molding. It was appraised for $16,000 for inside the home. There's 2 fireplaces in there. There's crown molding all over. It's not damaged. The walls is not damaged. We have done work. We have painted. We got pictures we can show you. We're trying to repair the home. And we appreciate if you would allow us, please, to do it. It won't happen again. The kids are out of school now. My son, he was going to get a job, but when this came up, we had to leave the home and go to the vacation home. But if you allow me to fix it, I promise you, we will fix it. And I just want to thank everybody, and I'm sorry that, it led to this. And, because I'm at your mercy, for this. I want to save the home. I love the home, and I want to save it. So my brother, he loves the home, and we have people that will help us put it back. And we would appreciate if you would just allow us time to fix it,
Okay, do you have another witness? We have someone's resume here that'll be, okay. This resume for Mark Valletta will be Exhibit C.
And I thank you all. Thank you.
Go ahead, we have a question from a board member.
It may not be to you or her.
Virginia, we have a question.
Yes, sir.
I'm looking at page 217, that's the layout. Is the shed you're referring to what's labeled outside storage?
Excuse me now?
Do we have that, do you have a slide of that we can put up here so she can see it?
Okay.
This says outside storage. Is that your shed? Is that what you're calling the shed?
No,
Or is it a separate building?
You know what, it's separate, actually. It's not connected. It's connected to the house, but you can't go into it from the house. It has a separate
Is
entrance.
that what's labeled outside
That's what she's
storage?
describing.
It has a separate entrance. It's like a, you know how you have something on the side of the house, but it's not connected to the house? It's like a room.
So you can't demolish the shed without, that's part of the...
You said what now?
That's not a separate structure.
No, it's not. Well,
I mean-
no, it's not. It's just that you
Okay.
cannot enter it
So
from
where
the
it says
house.
outside structure, that's what you're calling the shed.
Yeah, what she's talking about is a storeroom that's on the back of the house.
No, what happened, it broke. What happened, we had a complete storage with, like a slab of, concrete. It was actually a building, and the building fell down. Yeah, but that's how the stuff came inside, was from the storage that broke. It wasn't from the side of the house.
Gotcha.
It was actually a storage building.
All right.
And then the things came into the home, because of the storage. That's why the things was in the home. And then my mom constantly calls a lot because she's old. An older person. She's in her 80s. And as soon as I walk in the door, she needs me to come back and do something. And to be honest with you, I've just been on my last leg with running and doing things. But my kids are out of school now, and I can promise you, we will take care of this. We just need time. Anybody want to stop by and visit, check on it, you can check. I always keep my word. I'm not a problem to anyone. I just need a chance to repair it and make good of it. And I will, if you allow me, please, time to do it. I was in the process of doing it. We have taken a lot of things out. We have pictures where we've done progress, and we just would like time, please. It won't happen anymore.
How long have you lived in the house?
17 years, ma'am.
Why would I think that giving you more time, you would do something that you haven't done in 17 years?
Well, it wasn't like that. What happened is that when the shed broke, things came in. My arthritis became chronic. I can't take a generic medication. I have to take brand. Sometimes I have to just constantly, if I don't have it, they got to put it in. They got to do special orders for me. And it's a lot has been going on with my health because I have the arthritis. I do plan to make good of this. I do not live like that. I'm going to get it up. The kitchen will be gutted out, all that stuff. I'm just not, I don't do that. All that stuff was going to be removed. If they had allowed me time, ma'am, to Jesus Christ, it would have been gone. And I'm just honest about that. The kids are out of school now.
Why?
I don't have nothing but time.
Why have you not entered the kitchen in years?
Because sometimes I can't even get up out of bed. I have arthritis chronically. And most of the time I'll eat out, because we're right around the corner from all the eateries. I even had a tab at the Chinese restaurant. I'm just saying, we just don't, we just really was not cooking and using it. We was just constantly on the go because they had to go to school 6 o'clock in the morning. I got to get them up. I got to make sure that everything is good for them. I'm 60 years old. So now I have time. I have time now. I don't have to deal with school. I don't have to deal with, what they're doing, I can just concentrate on making sure everything is good at the house, and I will do that. All that stuff that I'm throwing out, I don't want it. It was just stuff. And the kitchen was in bad shape. It's going to be gutted. I'm not going to leave it like that. I promise you. No way. I was in the process of doing it. I apologize to everybody for that. I don't live like that, I don't. Anybody that knows me can testify I'm a very clean person.
But that is your living conditions.
It
That is what
me.
you...
That's right. You know what? That happened it happened there. It happened to me. But to be honest with you, and I'm just being honest, I didn't go in there. I'm a very tall person. I really didn't bend down. I really didn't go in there. I'm just being honest with you. Mm-hmm. I really didn't because the stove, what happened is that the stove was brand new, but we had a storm or something that shut the stove down, and the stove was actually brand new. The refrigerator was new too. We was trying to get it through the door. We couldn't get it through the door and let somebody take the door off. So we was like, you know what? We'll just wait and get everything done at one time. But then the shed fell and we brought all the clothes in. So, like I said, I have pictures of my previous, I think I have pictures when we stayed there before. I'm not gonna leave it like that. It's not even like that now. All that stuff is gone. And we're still, making everything nice because we have, things in there that's nice. We have nice things in the home. We just need to throw out what we don't need. Just don't do it anymore, but the stuff came from the shed. I give you my promise. I give you my promise.
Quick question, Davida, have they been, I know they were able to pick up certain items, personal items in terms of clothing, personal, have they actually been back in the house like she's saying? I mean, is there?
Once the order was given, once the order of judgment was given to her, we allowed them to go back in the house. We just stated, we asked them to not live in there because of the Nuvon strips, which, as you remember, Jimmy mentioned, you could only be in there for 2 hours within a 24-hour period. I was informed that those Nuvon strips have been taken down, so once they were removed, she could go in there for a longer time. So, yeah, this time she has been able to go back in her house.
Okay. And you say you've done painting, other stuff since then?
Pictures, my daughter, she can show you.
Okay, pictures, receipts, stuff like that. Do you want to submit that for evidence?
Yes, because a lot of that with the house, to be honest with you, a lot of that with the house is actually sealed tight. You know, like, I know they said there's roaches and stuff like that, but it's the bottom cabinet where the issue is, basically. That when you look up at the top of it, it's completely sealed, where there's nothing that went in. The house is full of crown mold, and it was appraised for $16,000, and that was back in 2000 when they insured it. So, you know, to take the crown molding out, you know, to just destroy the house, or just, you know, they built a lot of compartments in the house, a bookcase, 2 fireplaces, an office, and a desk is in the house as well. To take all that stuff out, and it's not damaged, you know, would be not good, but the walls I've been there 17 years, I have no damages on the walls or anything, no damages on the, you know, no damages on it, period. On the crown molding is in excellent condition. The whole house is full of crown molding. The whole entire house is crown mold on the windows, the doors. The whole house is just crown mold all over, and I would just hate for.
Now, did you live in the house the entire 17 years up until, I believe, August?
Yeah, they said I had to go, and then we just went through a lot. They just said we had to go, and we had to wear the same clothes for 30 days. We couldn't get back in the house. You know, we had to wash the clothes and wear the clothes, you know, like for 30 days, you know, because we couldn't get back in the house. And then, you know, people show pictures and say you're just a dirty person. You know, I mean, how dirty can I be if I'm wearing clothes for 30 days? You make me wear clothes for 30 days. I got to wash them, or I got to do the best I can. I'm tall. You make me worry about what I'm going to wear. I mean, and then you say, look at my cabinets. I'm a dirty person, but you make me wear the same clothes for 30 days.
I'm going to bring this up. You didn't have water for 4 years.
That's right.
And you lived in the house?
No, we was backward and forward in the house. We have another address. We was backwards and forward in the house.
But you just said you lived in the house.
Yeah, no. I was in the house when they got me out of the house, but I was back and forward in the house. That's why the house looked like that, because we was just back and forward, you know, because the kids was in school. My mom is old, Papa's old. I'm crippled up. They called me. All I can do is drag out the house, just drag back in the bed. They get up and go to school. It was a struggle for me because I have chronic arthritis. I have it. I started with it not too bad. Now it's spread it. I have it all over. When my doctor told me about, I guess 8 months ago, he was very upset about it because he had to tell me what it was. And he was like, you're chronic. You got to probably run the rest of your life, because if you sit down, you're not going to be able to do anything.
And now, you've owned the house and lived in it for 17 years,
That's right.
including from 2013 to 2017, without water.
No, what happened is that we had a leak. What happened is that the water was at $300 a month, and there was a leak in the water. We tried to get everybody to fix it. I kept paying plumbers and paying people to come and see where the leak was. Nobody could find the leak, but I kept getting the bill for a lot, so I called the city of Raleigh. They have everything on record. They could not find the leak. So what happened is that we was backwards and forward. You know, we have another place, and by my mom's, we was just basically backwards and forward in the house to make sure everything is okay, because people, I don't know, for some reason they always want to come into the house. They watch when we go, they watch when we come, and the kids have game systems and stuff. So sometimes we stay, you know, we just might stay there for a while and just go back to my mom's, or we go back to our other place. But I decided when the kids come out of school, we're going to be at the house. I had somebody to look at it. He's a plumber. I said, I want you to fix it because, you know, everybody's coming. It's no, you know, they can't fix it, but it's a problem. And the problem was in the ice maker. It was in the ice maker line. But I could not pay $300 a month for a leak. So that's why we have had another place. So we was there at that place. So then I put the water back on.
What is your address on your driver's license?
2629 Pleasant Hill. It's a mobile home. It's a vacation home, actually. And I have electric on over there. And I have electric on at 114. It's been very expensive, to be honest with you, you know, because we're trying to repair the house. So we did take another place, but now we want to hurry up and do what we need to do to the house so we don't have to worry about this other house, you know. So
Okay,
that's
and you,
what we did.
right, you said you have other witnesses?
Well, I have, yes, I do, and
Okay.
I appreciate you all, and thank you.
All right, they can come forward?
Okay, sir. And you know what, another thing was the price of the house. Do you want to see?
Is that the tax record that we saw earlier?
You know what, I didn't ever know that the house was at 60,000 because I never saw something like that.
It's in our packets.
Yeah, that's the tax.
Don't
No,
give
this
it.
is not it. This
This
is a different one.
Well, no, that is a different one. This same property, received, I'm looking for the year and I'm tax value. Let me hand it to the chair or the town attorney. What year evaluation is it?
I don't see a date. It was dated in,
Does it show the grade of the house, or is that just a snippet? Because some of the tax records in Wake County will show the grade of the house, but probably not.
So we can. If
and
you're-
we'll enter this as Exhibit D, if you could make copies for me. And I don't see any dates on there other than the deed date in 2000, which was
Yeah,
17 years ago. But it does have a different tax value on that document. Higher.
Significantly higher?
101. Isn't it 101? Out of 1,000?
Yes, please, sorry.
Yes.
Yeah, I would say, well, somebody appraised it and saw that it had lost value.
Okay. If you'd swear in the witness?
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
State your name and address, please.
My name is Mark Valletta. I live at 582 Wimbledon Drive, Raleigh, North Carolina. I'm the Director of Housing and Home Improvement for Resources for Seniors in Raleigh. Resources for Seniors was previously Wake County Council on Aging. It's been around about 45 years. A lot of folks are familiar with our organization. I have the honor of supervising about 11 employees, and we run 12 different grant-funded programs to assist disabled folks and seniors. Some are not tied to being a senior. We have programs that are just income-based strictly. That's why I'm here tonight on behalf of Ms. Mayo. First thing I'd like to do is commend the town of Zebulon, Ms. DeVita. I know there's not a person in this room that wants the Mayos to lose their house. I know that with all my heart. I also know, Ms. Mayo, that your house is in just terrible condition. And I think it's kind of amazing what we can get used to. You can hear an air conditioner running in your room, and after a while, you don't hear it anymore. There can be a smell that's just terrible, and after you've been around it for a while, you don't smell it anymore. So it's not a stretch to believe that you didn't feel that your house was as bad as it is, but it is not a place that you should be living. So I'm going to say that right off the bat. I think the house is in very, very bad shape. Having remodeled 3 houses myself, just because I like to make sawdust and things like that, there's no house that can't be fixed. It's just in what amount of time and at what cost. Now, the time is the issue here. The programs that I have to offer and possibly Wake County may have to offer are all wonderful programs, but they all have pretty long wait lists. There are people who've been in line for a year or more for some of these programs, and it would not be fair to skip the line to help Ms. Mayo. By the same token, though, I've got to think for a minute, it's puzzling, but had she not paid that water bill, we might not be here tonight. Think about it. I mean, that's what set this whole thing off. And I have to think about this, as everybody said, has been going on for a long, long time. And so I'm not questioning the health issues of the home for anybody to live in, but I think as long as that's been there, it's almost the proof's in the pudding that it really wasn't a terrible issue to the town or the community. It's been there for years and years like this. That's not to say it shouldn't be resolved and that we should ignore it. But one thing the elephant in the room that nobody's talked about is how many bills have been accumulated so far that the town would have to recoup. We've got a rough idea?
Trying to think, we have not received invoices, but it's certainly several thousands of dollars that will be paying out to the folks that have spoken here tonight. So yeah, it's not free services that they're providing by any stretch.
Sure.
But, you know, based on the circumstances and in this case and in this situation, based on the folks that had entered the room, we weren't going to put our staff in a position to get them in that. And I will say that we had several inspectors, both home inspectors, certified home inspectors, as well as exterminators, turn us down for services as we informed them of what we were needing their services for. Mm-hmm. So, the reason Mr. Lynn was even found is I contacted NC State to ask their director, you know, who would you recommend? And he recommended Mr. Lynn. So that's even how he came into the picture, and we're thankful that he did. But that's kind of how we got, you know, the folks here tonight anyway. But we haven't been invoiced for them, but it's certainly several thousands of dollars for that.
Do you recall what the extermination bill was?
I do not, but certainly Mr. Lynn can speak better as to what that.
That's total bill?
Just for right now.
Okay.
How much was that once again?
$730.
Okay, $730?
Yeah, that's without.
Best one.
I'll let you speak in the microphone so we have it on the recording.
Yeah, okay. It was, the current bill is $730. We were also, I made aware that because of the situation with the rodents and the odors and stuff, that we may end up having more roach issues we have to address. As I stated earlier, once we get in there, and once they get in there and start going through the stuff, we may find other issues. You know, so here again, now, one thing is with the odors and stuff, I've been in situations before where the problem was so bad, we put out rat bait inside an apartment and that was cluttered like that, and the rats couldn't even smell the bait to go eat it. So here again, you do have a lot of issues that still can come up, and we still hadn't checked the understructure either, so.
Regardless of how we proceed, you think the house needs to be treated again?
Yes.
Okay.
It'll have to be over several, I mean, we'll see more and more as we get into it, I'm sure.
All right, approach the podium so you can speak in the microphone.
I do understand that there was, that he did find German cockroaches. My ex-husband was an exterminator, and I do know what the cockroaches were. But I'm allergic to the spray, and we was trying to figure out what do we do. They weren't a lot of cockroaches. It was not. He was even laughing because he had said that when he went into an apartment building that they met him at the door. This is a one-level house. You can get rid of the cockroaches. You know, they're not that bad because my husband did this type of work. And once you're on one level, you're able to contain them. But if you're on multi-levels, then everybody's got to go 1, 2, 3, and everything has got to go off at once because they travel. We just only had the issue of them in the kitchen. If you notice that if it was infested, if he had to lift something back, you would have saw 1 million of roaches. We didn't have it like that. They just got in because we didn't go into the cabinet. We're in there now. We're throwing stuff out. It doesn't even look the same. It was just clothes, and they weren't dirty clothes. And when they say the pee, the urine or whatever, that's because the pound lady came in and scared the cat. The urine's from the cat. We didn't urinate on the floor, you know? And we try to tell them, this is not what happened, you know? So it's like we're just between a rock and a hard place, and we're just at your mercy to give us a chance, because the house is really not that bad. When he built it, he actually used the trestles like that. That's what's in the house, is these big beams like this. He actually made them from a tree. And I ran into the lady that it was her father's house. She's a nurse. And she said, you know what? You live in my grandparents' house. She cried, actually. And I said, oh my goodness, how do you know? She said, because of the address. So she asked me, did I see all the nice crown molding? Did I see the bookshelves, the china closet, and all that stuff that he built into the house, which is a desk, and he just built a lot of features into the home. He actually put a picture window in the back, and it's really a nice home. Once you bring it, you know, up and just, you know, clean it out and do the flooring and do what you need, it's really a nice house. And the flooring is very, very sturdy. You can walk, I walk in there all the time. But there is damages from where the water did leak. But as far as it goes, as walking in, you can walk in. And I feel that it can be saved, and I would appreciate if you allow us a chance to save it. We've been in there, we've not seen a bunch of cockroaches, and to be honest with you, they don't live when it get cold. That's the best time to exterminate us, when it's cold, because between the chemical that you're using and the cold weather, they can't live, and the house doesn't have heat in there now. There's no heat on, so we don't have them. When he exterminated, they're pretty much gone. I'm just gonna be honest about it. And we're gonna gut the cabbage, we're gonna gut out what was you saw the cabinets and all that, that's coming out. It's not gonna stay. It was never gonna stay. All that stuff is gonna be redone, and it's gonna be kept really nice. We just want an opportunity, please. Thank you.
You may continue.
Well, before you continue, hold on, sorry. Before you continue, you brought up that if the water had not been turned on, this would not come to our attention, correct? That's what you just said.
Good possibility.
The cats are what brought the attention to the town.
I thought the water got us to go out, and then they smelled the odor, and then
we can go back to the record here where the cats, where someone reported that the numerous cats in the neighborhood is what drove someone to the home.
Okay, well, I won't argue that point. I'm just here to try to tell you what I can do to help the situation.
Thank you.
All right? We run a number of programs. We run, just to let you know the kind of work we do, we administer the city of Raleigh and the town of Cary's limited repair programs. Those are programs that couldn't be effective here, but they're like $7,500 in repairs for a home. We administer the North Carolina Housing Finance's urgent repair program, which is repairs up to about $8,000. We have other programs that we have access to. We have a Duke fund. If you're a Duke client now in Zebulon, I don't know if that's a possibility. There might be some Duke Power clients here that has some health and safety repairs. But if you add all of our programs up, it's going to take a monumental effort, one, to be eligible for those, and she probably is. Two, to go through the wait period that I alluded to earlier for these programs. I've also reached out to Rebuilding Together the Triangle. Again, they have a long wait list, but he had mentioned the USDA had programs that could help. So we routinely try to leverage dollars. We've run into problems that we can't pay for it with one program, so we'll fix a problem with another and then come in and piggyback programs and things like that. But what's going to have to happen is she's going to have to be allowed time, and that's the big critical thing here. There's no doubt the house needs to be gutted. Like he said, I'm a licensed North Carolina home inspector. I've had a commercial general contractor's license. I've been in construction for 40 years, and I agree with the gentleman who did the assessment of the house. It needs to be gutted back to the studs. Crown molding could probably be saved if somebody was careful, but nevertheless, it's going to take a major repair. We have volunteer groups for our weatherization program, which is another program that could possibly help with heating and air and insulation. We've got volunteer groups that go into homes that are cluttered and remove stuff and just take it out. My church, Trinity Baptist Church, is a fairly large church, and we've gone and done projects with our volunteers and our Baptist Men Disaster Relief, and volunteers come out and do that type of thing too. It's just going to take a lot of organization, a lot of time on a lot of people's part to be willing to take this on. And I understand your pause about it's been this way for a long time. What's going to change it? I think Mr. Blevins will talk to that later about Wake County. We're certainly willing to make the effort if we can. We can't promise anything tonight because we just don't know enough about the details. I've not really heard anything about a mortgage situation on the home.
I have homeowners insurance actually that take care of it.
No, I don't mean insurance. I mean, how much, is there a mortgage remaining on the home?
Yes, there is a mortgage remaining on the home.
So,
Please.
Ms. Mayo, if you could go to the podium.
Yeah, unfortunately, you have to speak in the microphone so we can get it for the recording.
It's off track, but we do have a number of programs that we could probably piggyback, and we do have other folks that we could reach out to in the county. I'm just sort of an advertisement for Wake County. This is a very affluent county, and we sometimes miss a lot of abject poverty in this county. I see a lot of houses every day. That's what we go do, and we run into situations like this. And the only reason we're there is to help, and that's the only reason I'm here tonight. I hope that you can give her the time that the town has recommended to you to give her to see if we can help prevail and save her home, because this is an asset of the family, and once it's gone, and it would be awful to think that maybe a few $1,000s that was owed to the town that she may not have right now would cause the town to condemn the house, take the property, and demolish the house. So, anyway, has anyone got questions for me?
Yeah. Have you been in the house?
I have not been in it. I did go all around it. I couldn't get in. It was still closed up. Went in after our initial meeting that we had several weeks back.
You have certification in asbestos. I didn't know if you would do
yeah.
that.
Well, we have to be
That's going to be a problem in the...
Yeah, well, the age could possibly be right. But
and one other question. You dealing with these programs, her having a different physical address on her driver's license, having another dwelling, does that government funds go into play to...
Not as long as that Wake County slip says she's the owner of it.
So tax dollars would go to repair her second home.
No, that's
Is that-
You could go to.
Hello. What has happened is that 114 is my home, for 17 years. But what happened is that my brother has had strokes and heart attacks and stuff, and we were trying to repair the home and the shed fell. When we went to look at prices to get a storage, it's $180 a month to get a storage. He had to store stuff, I had to store stuff. So we said, well, might as well just get a vacation, get a vacation home. So he just picked a mobile home, and we put a lot of stuff in it, like we put stuff in it, from the shed. And the rest of the stuff came inside the home, and we was gonna go through it and throw some stuff out. That's what was going on. But 114 is my physical address. That is my home, and I love it, and I want to save it. They're saying tear the walls down and stuff, but in my opinion, I mean, if they want to tear the walls down, the walls are something like these walls here.
Yeah.
And they're to be honest with you, they've been painted. We have pictures, and they've been painted, and it's very pretty to me. The wall is very nice. And there's no damages on it, but to take it down, they're saying to take everything out, to gut it out. I mean, I never thought it would come to that.
Well, while you're still up here, back to the other, I've looked at this. It did not look like you're delinquent in taxes, but I could not research to see if there are any liens on the property. But you said there is a mortgage.
Yeah, I'm actually up to date. The taxes and everything is up to date because it was paid.
But I couldn't see if there were any liens, like you got a mortgage on the house.
It's just a mortgage. I didn't do I didn't do any liens or anything against the property.
Okay.
It's never been any liens against the property. And the taxes and everything is paid up to date, and there's a mortgage on it, on the house.
Are the mortgage, are they involved in this, the mortgage holders? Or does that matter?
No. Yeah, Mr. Valletta, one question for you is the ordinance, as I understand it, talks about remedying the situation within 90 days.
Right.
So I have that on this side of my brain.
Sure.
On the other side, I'm thinking if the grants help with this and there's a long waiting list, what would be the probable time that $63,000 would be available to help?
As I said, there's a lot that has to be investigated. I think the town's recommendation to you is good that you set milestones. I think we have to probably at least not set them tonight because we need to go do a little bit of research about the eligibility for the programs and those sorts of things so that we can see what could be put together. I mean, it may happen that it just can't happen, and I hope that's not the case. But most of these programs have year-long wait lists, and so anything that could be done to that home to protect the community and health and safety would probably be volunteer efforts, like going in there. Well, for instance, Lonnie Poole, who owns Waste Industries, is a member of our church. He's a very benevolent man, and I bet you if I told him I need dumpsters to put stuff in, he'd probably put them out there and pay for them. Now, that's just me saying that right now. I'm not offering that on his behalf or anything. We have a lot of people in our church who help. We have groups that would come out and probably get things cleaned out and at least get it in a my proposal is to get it in a position where it's not a health issue for them or the community. There's more that needs to be done. And so I would think that would be the first milestone, is to investigate maybe do some legwork for you and find out how we can get this thing where it's at least not a health issue for the community. Board it up, whatever has to be done to keep cats and animals from going in and out of it. And then do a little bit of research into the programs to see what could be done. North Carolina Housing Finance has their programs called Single Family Rehabilitation. I don't think anyone in Wake County has that now. They moved that pot of money around the state as need be for, a lot of it shifted to the east because of the hurricanes we've had down there, and so a lot of that money is down there. So some of these programs are sort of mobile. That would be a great program to address the house because it will invest a sizable amount of money into the home to actually bring it back up, possibly the entire amount. So the things are there. I think my parting words to you I had written down was I think the milestones is a great idea. I think we need to just have a little bit of time to establish those because I don't think any of us have enough information for you to establish those milestones. But does anybody else have any questions for me?
Who contacted you, Miss Mayo?
No. I was contacted by the town, as a matter of fact. They've been working on her behalf. I mean, I can't say anything but good things. The town has got their hands tied. I realize that. They've got ordinances. They have to follow them, and they did. And right after our meeting, when we talked about that and they ordered that, they took her right downstairs and filed this appeal and helped her file it. So, as I said, nobody wants you to lose your house, and I don't think that's why we're all here. But sometimes things get to the point where there's no point of no return. I hope we're not there yet. Anyone else? Question for me?
No further questions? Mrs. Mayo?
We have removed a lot of things out of the house, and we have pictures, and we took a lot of things from outside. Everything has been basically removed, and inside the house has been moved, and they constantly say that as a health issue. I really didn't know the maintenance of any cats or anything like that. And when the labs came back, the labs are very low. But even though the labs are low, they're insistent that there's an odor and there's a problem. But there's not an odor, there's not a problem. It's just that there was a clutter, there was things that need to be moved. To take the house down to the studs, to me, seems very intense. It seems very, I don't know, it just seems a lot to just do that. The walls are good. It just needs work.
Can I address that, Ms. Mayo?
Please.
Yes.
Ms. Mayo, when a house gets in that condition and there are so many points of entry for insects and pests and animals and things like that, roaches, if they get in the wall, they're depositing feces in the walls, in the insulation, and you don't see it. I mean, you could have a wall that looks just wonderful and not know what's going on behind it. And so that's why everybody's saying that. We're not saying we want to demolish your house just because we want to demolish your house.
I have no problem with that, but my thing is, when something is sealed tight and you cannot go in it, You know, there's a lot of parts of the house that is completely sealed where there's no way a roach can get in it because it is sealed so tight. And to tear it down, to tear certain parts of the house down, I know the cabinets that he showed need to be replaced, but we have pictures of the top cabinets that cost close to $4,000, and they're completely wood. And the man is saying, do not tear them down. He's saying to leave the top cabinets, tear the bottoms down, you could replace the doors on them, but the cabinets are in good condition. This is what he's saying. He said, just clean the cabinets, clean the top, take the bottoms out, and just throw them out. And the floor is just completely hardwood. I forget, it's like the old wood that's in this building. You know, it's the wood from back in the day. He made sure that the wood is very sturdy. It's very sturdy wood. But it does need repair because we had a tree that hit and it made damages. But we was in the middle of repairs. So to me, to say tear it down, bring it down to the studs seems very extreme to me because the house is not falling in. It has, you know, trestles like that, and it's very, very sturdy. It just needs work.
All right, do you have some more witnesses that'd like to speak?
One last comment.
Yes.
Being a home inspector, I see a lot of things, and I crawl under houses, and I crawl in attics, and go places that nobody wants to go. And I think one of the first milestones is to get the place cleaned out so that we can really establish what's going on in the crawl space. I mean, is it termite ridden? Is the floors getting ready to fall? We just don't know. What's going on in the attic? What's going on with the roof? I mean, the estimate he's got, he was not able to see a lot. And by the way, you got great estimates. I would think that would be our first milestone. Get it cleaned out so that a real accurate assessment could be done. And in the process of that, you're going to get the house in a much better health and safety condition too, just by cleaning it out. So that would be my first suggestion for a milestone. Anyone else? Questions?
Any other questions?
No.
Okay, any further witnesses?
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth so help you God?
I do.
State your name and address, please.
Darrell Blevins, 302 Allentown Lane, Knightdale, North Carolina. Good evening, board. I wish we were meeting under some other circumstances, but my name is Darrell Blevins. I'm the director of the Eastern Regional Center here. I work for Wake County Human Services. And I got a call from Mark a while back about similar issues, not this specific issue, but about other issues and what could we do as an agency to help, you know, with families who maybe they hadn't had water in a while or lights in a while and things like that. So I talked to him a little bit about our programs that we could offer. And Vita called me and wanted to talk about this particular case. And so I was called into a meeting to sort of like look over everything before they made a determination. And one of the things that I said to them is, it doesn't make a difference if you pour $100,000 in this house. If we don't provide her the support that she needs, it'll be back like that in 6 months. That's just my personal opinion about it. And so what I wanted to offer, and I've been talking to the family, is just to offer them that support, to get somebody there to help coach them through the things they're dealing with. And I know there's challenges. I mean, she has medical problems, and she has medical issues, and they're real issues. And it makes it hard to do things when you have those kinds of issues. So what I have strongly suggest is getting a social worker to really work with her and do some in-home services to really support her in her effort to make some of the changes that she desires to make. And as you guys heard tonight, and I've looked at some facial expressions, and it gets a bit frustrating when you see pictures like this and then you hear Ms. Mayo talk, because the evidence is overwhelming. That house is in disrepair, and it needs to be taken care of. So I'm not a construction expert, so I don't know what it would take to repair the house. I can't speak to that, but what I do know is that regardless of what direction we take, this family's going to need support. And so I've talked to them on several occasions. I've talked with Ms. Mayo, I've talked with her daughter, and just tried to be a support for them. And I think Mark definitely have a better take on the resources in the community to help with the repairs. But I wanted to assure the board that if we do go this route and decide that repairs are what's going to be done, that we're going to provide that family with the support they need to be productive and be good citizens. If I gave up on people, I'm going to change professions. I need to get out the business. So I believe wholeheartedly that this family can be helped. And whether it's in this home or in another home, the family needs support. And so that's what we want to offer to them, is that more support and having some of our social workers really just work with her around certain issues, to help her be productive, and so that the house don't get back in that shape. And you know, I know her heart is good, and her is in the right place. But you know, again, as I think Mark said something really important, is sometimes when the environment's so long, what everybody else see, we don't see. I mean, they don't. Everybody else can see everything going on, but we don't see it. And I think that's in fact what's going on in this case. That they've been in that situation for so long that they don't see it as bad as we see it, outside people looking in. But I want them to know, and I've talked to them, that we're here to support them, and we want to make sure that they, if they are given this opportunity, that we wrap them with some resources so that they can be successful, and that they can enjoy a beautiful home that they want to be a part of. They love this community, I know, and they want to be in this community, and we want to be able to help support that effort. So if the concern is, well, what's going to happen if we do put this kind of money in this house? What's going to happen, a year from now? We're going to be back here a year from now talking about the same issues. What I can assure you is that we're going to try to provide that support to her as long as she's allow us to ensure that it doesn't happen again. We care about our seniors in this community. We care about our seniors throughout Wake County, and so there are resources to help our seniors to be stable, and we want to make sure that we provide that. So that's my contribution tonight, is to say that if she is offered the opportunity, that I will definitely make sure that we get resources in her corner to help with sustainability of the effort.
Excuse me, if you have something to say, please.
Yeah, any questions from Daryl or for Daryl?
Yeah, but go ahead and let Ms. Mio speak, because she obviously really wants to speak. So.
I do appreciate everybody's support, but I did see the problem. I did see it. I'm not a person that can't see anything. I did see it, but what happened is that I had my kids later in life. I had my son at 36, and he's 23. And then I had my other twins. They're twins. There's a twin to my daughter. And they go to school, and they had to be at the bus stop at 6 o'clock in the morning. I had to be mobile to help them get to the bus stop and help them do things, and I've had to do that for years. So by me being 60, I had them late in life. I'm old enough to be their grandma, So I dedicated my life to my kids and their schooling and making sure they went to school on time, and they were, clean, fed, and they did what they did in the house. Did get out of control because we brought things in from the shed. There's people that do know me, that know my family, and do know that I'm a person. I have a big family, and half of Wake County is related to me. I'm kin to the Goodsons, the Paces, and half of Eagle Rock and Wendell Falls is my mother's and them property, actually, is coming in, and I am a good person. I'm just sorry that it led to us coming before you. They didn't say it was going to lead to this, and I apologize. It's not going to be like that again. I have nothing but time to do the house, and that's what I'm going to do. You can trust me. I have very nice things in my home, and I will bring my home to code, and I will do what you want me to do. I'm not a person that needs to do anything else but that, and I promise you that. It will not be like that again. I promise you that. There's no way. And I just want to thank everybody. I will not do that because I don't have to worry about them in school no more. They're out. So now I just only have time to make sure everything is okay, and I promise I'll do it. You can trust me. I give you my word. And thank you. I am at your mercy. Thank you.
Any other witnesses?
Daryl, real quick, your reputation precedes you because I've actually firsthand know someone that you've helped. And elderly grandmother in her 80s with dementia, your organization did everything they possibly could, but you can't change a situation that doesn't want to be changed. Do you feel this is a situation like that? Because you have here, her testimony is totally contradictory to fact. You offer unbelievable services. Do you feel that she's going to take advantage of these? In your past experience?
This could be a challenge, but I think there's some other assessments that needs to take place. And so I don't have all of the information in front of me in terms of really getting a thorough assessment. Yeah. So that's one of the things that I would be offering to Ms. Mayo up front, is to get a thorough assessment completed, so we get a better picture of what's going on. I don't want to make any assumptions now.
Of course.
In terms of how, what our motivation level would be, but I do think some other assessments would be necessary to get a better feel for what that possibility would be.
And do you feel that should be one of the milestones that is established if we allow this route to go?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay, are there any other witnesses or photos or exhibits that you'd like to present?
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
State your name and address, please.
Alexis Mayo, 114 East Lee Street in Zebulon. I have photos, but they're on my phone, so I don't really know how to show you, not unless you want me to pass my phone to you for you to see it.
Probably the best thing to do is just to come around, I think, and show them on your phone. Obviously, we won't be able to have them in evidence, but if you wanted to illustrate some of the pictures.
You could just kind of show them and walk in front of us so we can all kind of see them.
Okay.
These are photos you took in the home?
How old is this?
This is
Yesterday. Okay.
And so we can kind of talk while you're doing this. These are photos of cleaning and painting that's been done?
That's the front door we enter.
Thank you. While they're doing that, can I ask a question? Has the town ever demolished a house?
Maybe show two of us at one time.
Gone through the process and actually done it?
Yes, we haven't hired a contractor. We have had dilapidated houses, mainly vacant, boarded up type that are about to implode on themselves. So the town has taken enforcement mechanisms, but the property owners have abated those themselves.
All right.
Come right here, see.
I guess for the recorded record, these are primarily photos that were taken of the house where the walls have been cleaned and painted and generally tidied up.
I need a point of clarification from the attorney. If this is being entered into evidence,
It hasn't been entered as evidence yet.
It's not being entered into as evidence.
I'm just describing what we
I
basically
guess my
saw.
question would be, okay, never mind.
Yeah, and then we will have to determine, it has not been entered as evidence, and the board will have to decide whether or not they want to consider it in their ruling or their questions. I think is the best way I can put it.
That's right, because it cannot be entered into the record specifically. So essentially, it's just sort of been used to illustrate her testimony and information, kind of illustrative. I think what I would ask Ms. Mayo, Alexis, is that you kind of gave a summary of those photos as you were showing them to each of us. If you would just kind of do that.
From your voice
from
in the
podium,
for the record.
please.
Yeah.
Kind of describe the photos to us.
Well, the first photo I showed you guys was the family, well, no, it was the kitchen.
Kitchen.
And the kitchen had got scrubbed and repainted, and it's painted yellow now. And then they called it bedroom 1, I believe. The walls had been scrubbed and it had been repainted, and the ceiling got painted pink too. So the whole room's repainted pink. And the dining area, that had got painted, and also the foyer, when you walk in, it had got painted and, you know, it got scrubbed and painted. And then the outside, I don't know if you saw that, but the carport had got cleaned out and cleared.
Okay, thank you. Any other witnesses or exhibits from the petitioner? Anybody else care to speak?
Can I make one comment, Chairman?
Yes, you may.
I will say that we made a request for an additional inspection prior to this hearing. We were trying to get it 3 days prior to kind of go in and see for ourselves if any work had been done, and property owner did not allow us in to do that inspection, so it was not performed.
So you did request entry and were denied?
Yes.
No, we requested entry and were denied. So we asked to see if we could go in there to see if she had done any changes from the time that the order of judgment was served, which was September 22nd, 2017. But once we requested it, she did not allow us to go in there.
Okay. The podium.
What happened with the property is that once they allowed us to go into the property, I had said to her to let me repair everything before it even started. So they put tags on the door, and nobody was able to get anybody out there to look at the property because of the red tags that was on the door for hazard. So that put a stop on everything. So then, after that happened, they let us into the place, and once they let us into the place, I said to her, could I get permits and go ahead on and do the work, because it's just, like, it's probably the size of this here. The damages on the ceiling is like about the size of this. And I said, well, can I get someone to just come and get the permit, just put everything back? By the time we go to the board, everything will be back. They said, no, we have to come to the board first. So what we did, once we was allowed back on the property, we cleaned it, took everything out, because that's what we were doing anyway. We went on and we painted everything, and we put everything back. By the time she asked to come in, we was in the middle of repairing, and they had to put the public sign out. Once they put the public sign out, it was like really hard for us to get things done, because we really wanted someone to come and, you know, do the work. And it was like they was asking questions. What are these signs for? You know, can we go in? Are we allowed to do the work? You know, and they started asking questions. So we wasn't able to be successful in repairs, but we were willing to do the repairs. There was actually no problem. We was in the middle of it when they came. We had installed a hot water heater, and we had plowed the lot back. And you're looking at it, to plow that lot was a lot of money. It was really a lot. And we plowed that whole lot back. And in the kudzu, the city don't take care of it anymore. And it comes from the creek all the way to the property, you know, and we have to learn how do you manage it, because it's coming up to the home now. So we will be aware of that and take care of it. And they could have came back to the home if they had wanted to, but with them putting signs and doing things, we weren't able to get repair people there, you know, to do any work, because they said no. So we just painted and did basic what we could do to better the place.
Okay. Are there any other witnesses or any other testimony that'd like to be presented tonight from anybody else in the audience?
Davidi, do you have record of that phone call or request to her? I mean,
We do have a record of when we called her. We don't have that right now.
Well, it's in your
office.
phone log. I mean,
Yeah, it's in our phone log
Right.
of when we called her, asking to get in there at least 3 days before the hearing. The reason that we hoped to get into the home was to at least be able to show you or to prove to you some of the repairs that she stated that she had done.
In case you were trying to help her case.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But that was denied to us, so.
Thanks.
Mhm.
It'll be part of our deliberations. Okay.
Excuse me, sir. I do
Yes.
have a problem. I never denied her because I never spoke to her. Only thing I said was that we were cleaning up and we were doing things. They said, that's good. They said, you could take pictures of it, you could show the board. Miss Julie asked me, we could probably get back in and take pictures. That was all that was said to me. She never phoned me and said, you know what? It's 3 days. Have you done any work? Do you want us in? That never happened. I would have let her in. I have no problem, in letting her in. She could have told me way ahead of time, or, once you get everything clean or get everything good, we could come in. That was never discussed with me. We just went on with our plans. I would have let her in because she came in anyway. So I would have welcomed her in to see the change. But that never took, she never said that to me. Miss Julie told me, since I had done the place, that I could let them see it, but I never spoke to Miss DeVita about that. So,
Okay.
Yeah, because I have no problem with her coming in.
All right, a question for the board or the town. Your staff recommendation talked about milestones and consequences, et cetera. Have you given any thought to what type of timetable you have in mind or you were thinking of?
I think the reason that the milestones were passed out is, I guess, first of all, I want to thank Mark as well as Daryl, and then Brian Neal, who I don't believe is here tonight, but he's with Weatherization of Wake County. All three of them attended the minimum housing hearing that was held for Mrs. Mayo back at the end of August. And it was our effort to bring them in to try and offer all these programs that Mark and Daryl spoke about, to offer that assistance to her and to try and get her that help. And I think probably what was key to me in what Daryl said was, as long as she allows us to. Davida and I have been kind of begging her to speak with these folks as well as to apply for some of these assistance programs. And certainly in talking with Mark, I think some of the programs may be spread out over months, if not years, depending on which program she may kind of fall into or be awarded for. So I certainly agree that it would be a long process, but I think we've certainly been trying to kind of bring her in and get her some of these programs to assist her with that. So with that being said, I think part of the appeal, the determination that staff made, we're limited with the ordinances in the time frame and then our determination itself based on the value of the house and then the value of the improvements that Taylor spoke to. So with all that and our limitations, that's why we kind of threw out some of the milestones, and we feel that we, along with, I think, everybody else here, do not want Miss Mayo to lose her house. However, we all do feel, based on the evidence, that I think something has to be done to the structure. So what staff's intent is to try and, as part of the appeal, throw out some milestones. Certainly the type of milestones, the days attached to that is certainly up to the board's discretion. But I think we as staff just don't want to spin our tires in mud, so to speak. We want to make sure that she's getting help, and then whatever is to come with the house based on the board's decision, that you know, there are milestones set to that to keep, you know, this on track and keep it moving forward. Whatever that determination is, whether you take some of these milestones or not, that was just our intent with them.
In other words, it's more of a guidance than it is setting some mileposts for us.
Correct.
And I want to thank you as a citizen and chairman of the board, and I think I speak for the board for all the effort you guys have already put into this project. You've done so many things I didn't know you did that I was thinking about offering as a suggestion, and it's already been done. You guys have done a really good job trying to move this along. Appreciate that. Does the board have any questions before we start deliberations? And as I like to do, to summarize what we're doing, we basically have an appeal against the enforcement code officer that we have to decide whether or not we agree with or disagree with. In other words, do we agree what Mark has brought to us that's been appealed, and then we have recommendations about milestones, timelines, consequences, how this would move along. Now, if you disagree with him, we don't have to do that, because this is null and void at this point in time. But if you agree with his ruling, then the next recommendation is timeline, consequences, milestones. And I know you're all thinking about that if you've read the package, which I spent a couple nights reading. Very good job on the package, very thorough.
I think it's the biggest packet I've ever
Yeah, yeah. I guess what I need to officially do is close the public hearing at this point, so we deliberate here. So,
Can I ask a question about that, just in generality? If the house is demolished, does the town pay for that and put a lien against the property to collect the cost reimbursement, or how does that work? Who absorbs the cost of demolition?
Well, initially it would be the town, but then it would
It would be a lien
potentially
on
be
the
mitigates
recorded
property.
as
the
a
property
lien
owner.
on the property, and
And
that
there's already a mortgage on the property, according to, okay.
the
But, yeah, I was just.
yeah, and that would
it would
work,
be a
and there
lien.
would, and before,
Land.
but before that demolition order, there would actually be action by the Board of Commissioners as well, enacting an ordinance, moving that forward as well.
does the board have questions? We're deliberating now, so we can talk among ourselves, and we can still ask anybody who's testified if you have questions.
My main question is to legality. Can we legally require her to seek Daryl's assistance? Or, I mean, I know we're really,
I think that would be one of the conditions or milestones we
Yeah.
may want to mention.
but can we
I don't think
request that legally?
I don't think we can force it, but we can ask for it,
Okay.
that outside resources be brought in
Yeah.
as needed or required.
Yeah, because if that's not something that can even be offered up, the rest of it, as Mark said, might be just spinning our tires.
Right.
And wasting time of the town who has spent lots of man hours trying to help out the situation. And you both should be commended, the whole department. And I know how it is working for another town, that the man hours are the one thing that kind of get swept under the rug, but it adds up. So.
Yeah, I think my comment would be that under this sort of the minimum housing piece, really what we're focused on is the condition of the house. If the house can be brought into compliance with minimum housing requirements, then that's done. Otherwise, it has to be demolished. Obviously, there are other peripheral and important components, but I don't think it's something that this board or really even the town can force
Correct.
to be brought to bear.
Yeah.
But certainly those recommendations could be suggested or made.
Okay. Thank you.
The 90-day requirement in the ordinance seems very tight, even if you have deep pockets and can find contractors. 90 days is a quick time to do something.
You spoke of 6 to 8 weeks, and that would be ideal, perfect conditions. And you're in the wrong season now for perfect conditions, because I'm having a house built, so I know perfectly well that would not happen. So.
Yeah, one recommendation for the board to think about is, what do you think about a thorough inspection being done of the house, which includes attic, main floor and crawl space.
That's what I was wondering, if we can reconvene in 30 days, which would allow them to clean out the clutter and allow people to get under the house, see if it's totally termite infested and the floor
Agreed.
system gone to. Can we do that, like postpone the hearing in order
Well,
to get?
yeah,
the
we can
deadline
recess
to
this,
get
but,
it?
you know, first of all, our number one business is to deal with the appeal on do you or do you not agree that it didn't meet minimum standards, and then after that, we can recess to come up with the conditions, milestones, and maybe suggest some things take place over the next 30 days, such as a complete inspection of the home with cost estimates, and maybe an inspection to see how much has been cleaned, actual progress, and bring photos to us. I don't know if we need a field trip, so to speak. Question in the back of the room.
Not a question, actually, an offer. As a licensed North Carolina home inspector, if we could get the house, at least so I can get in there, I would do an inspection and give you a report, and I won't charge Ms. Mayo or the town, just in her interest, so, just offering that up.
Are you qualified to also do construction estimates or just an inspection?
I could, but I don't think I should be involved in that component of it. It's sort of a conflict of interest
Yeah, that
for
would
me
be a
to do
conflict.
that.
But by doing the inspection, there's several firms that will do it pro bono that would give us just again, we can get another estimate here to get a true estimate of cost. So as long as we can have an inspection within that 30-day window.
Yeah.
I mean, the sooner the better, actually.
Yeah. Well, there need to be some stuff's going to have to get out of the way.
Correct.
So, and that's a component we'll have to figure out, but I just wanted to offer that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, my concern is Mark's decision, the cost estimate he got, it's one. I mean, can you get, I hate to get 3 bids, but I mean, are we considering, I mean, you could go back with seconds, dented appliances. I mean, the house doesn't have to be brought up to 2017 new house. It just has to be brought back up to minimum.
The housing code, correct.
Right, so you don't have to buy the most expensive things to replace it with. So, I mean, you may can do it less than that, which would not.
But that estimate showed no appliances, no fixtures of lighting, anything. I mean, it is just the gut of the house, correct? So to get appliances, light fixtures, you're talking even second scratch dents. We go into Habitat Humanity, it'd still be.
But you may find out it's even more astronomical.
Yeah, I mean.
Price that.
Yes.
Please.
Back to the microphone. Oh, yeah, the hearing's closed, but I guess we can listen to a comment.
What happened to the home is that I had someone to look at it. They took a house down to the studs, and I asked him, could he give me his opinion of the house? He came in and he did give me his opinion. He told me that the house was good. He said that cosmetically you can fix it and repair it, or you could take it down to the studs. It depends upon what you want done to the house. He said, but the house is in good condition. And he worked underneath an engineer. They actually take the house all the way down to the studs, and he makes about $2,000 a day doing this type of work. And I saw the house that he did take down to the studs, and he put it back up. He put the entire house back up. So all I want to say is that I feel that the house can be repaired, and I feel that it can be brought up to code if we're allowed to do that. I think the house is good, and I think maybe, it can be saved. Thank you.
Could I make a recommendation or thought to the board that, number one, we consider voting on the code enforcement's decision, and then along with that, what additional information you think you may need before you come up with any timelines, consequences, or milestones. And one of those may be the inspection of the home, a complete inspection, and along with that, it may require the clutter to all be removed, and/or maybe additional treatments during this time frame. Although, I'm not an exterminator either, but I'm assuming what has been chased out will just come back, especially with the cold weather, at least to control that, and then reconvene at some point in time, maybe 30 days. just an idea to be floating out there to be thinking about.
So you're saying if we vote to uphold Mark, we don't have to come back in 30 days? That's,
Well, we can,
or
yeah,
it's a
number...
twofold thing.
Twofold, yeah. Number one, we have to rule on the appeal. I think that's priority one, but then beyond that, you may want to do some conditions, and you may want to hold off on those with the following things being done, because we are lacking, we have a lot of information, but we're still lacking some information.
All right, my question would be, is are we to, I know when we talk about variances and everything, that's one set. This seems to be completely a different
Right, this is an
question.
appeal. Yeah, this is
Right.
different.
Where if we agree that the planning department was right in their decision-making.
That it didn't meet minimum housing standards.
Right.
Correct.
And we agree to that or disagree, whatever the vote would be, then basically it's, I guess, how the planning department wants to proceed. Let's say we uphold their finding.
Yeah, and there, one of the recommendations was that we help come up with milestones, consequences, et cetera. So this thing either moves along successfully or moves along
To demolition.
and demolition.
That's our only two options, milestones
Right.
or demolition. That's all we've got.
Is there any way, I mean, there's no way to ensure that this property won't return to the present condition in 2 years?
That's up to you. If you wanted to put some regulation in there, maybe it be inspected, making sure it meets the minimum standards, in which case it's kind of off the list, but it needs to be monitored. And then, you know, I have questions like, if a car has been sitting vacant on the lot for 4 years and nothing's been done, well, why wasn't anything done? And then I also think about a house not having water or power. I know there's not a system in place to tell us that, but if I was on the planning board, that is something I would kind of want to know. If there's no water in a house for a couple months, is it vacant, or is there somebody just living in there? I mean, I'm going to call it nosy, because legally I don't think you can do a whole lot, but you can keep an eye on that property. If there's somebody living in it and there's no power and water, there's going to be issues sooner or later.
I think there was power. There was power. Because
the whole time?
Yes.
Okay.
While we don't know for sure, the contention is there was probably power most of the time, while the water is guaranteed that it was off since 2013.
And I'm only speaking in keeping tabs on this so things don't get out of control. You know, like I like to think I'm a little policeman in my neighborhood, and that I monitor, and if somebody's grass gets a little bit too high, I offer to maybe help mow or wonder why they didn't mow, or I have a neighbor who likes to park in his front yard, and I told him we don't park in the front yard. We have driveways and streets, and there's just some general codes you follow in a neighborhood. So, and I'm just wondering if the town could do a little bit better job of looking for vacant cars and, you know, turning that stuff in. And after it sits there a couple of months, somebody ought to ticket it or notice it as a violation and help move things along. Donate the car, do something.
The problem
so it doesn't sit there.
with that house, believe it or not, that car was actually cleaned a few times in the few years. We live 2 blocks away, but it sits under those trees, so it's just a constant. It was kind of hard to tell. I mean, but that being said, it could have been brought up. I'm going to ask this question. Are we going to allow them to, one of the conditions is they're going to have to stay in their, quote, vacation home during this process. They cannot move back in.
Well, if we rule in favor that it doesn't meet minimum housing standards, nobody lives in it.
Right. Has anyone from ZPD gone by to see if there's even, do we have any inkling that someone is still living in the home?
Well, let me just say, the hearing is closed. You cannot take
Yeah,
any more
sorry.
evidence.
Yeah, I should have asked that.
And I want to,
Yeah.
let's try and,
We can wonder among ourselves.
Yeah.
So once again, priority one is the appeal on whether or not we agree that it does or does not meet minimum housing standards. The town says it does not, and they presented very thorough evidence on why they feel that way. They've also told us everything they have done to move and help this thing along, but we have an appeal to deal with.
Yep.
Okay.
So let's, can we,
I move for a vote.
I've got a question
Someone,
for the
okay.
attorney. Can the town demolish a house with a mortgage holder not being notified their investment's being demolished?
That's, there at some point, the mortgage holder will likely be notified, but.
After the fact.
Well, but yeah, a lot of times that's really between the holder.
That was my question, I didn't know.
And if the
well,
mortgage
if that's
holder.
the case, the mortgage holder may want to close the mortgage.
And then they'll foreclose on the home and.
That's between them.
Yeah.
So once again, priority one is the appeal on do we agree or disagree with the code enforcement officer that the house did not meet minimum housing standards. And then beyond that, we can discuss additional information we may require and/or milestones, timelines, consequences, if we would like to make some recommendations to the planning board, because they will enforce those. And then whether it's legal or not,
Can I make a motion to uphold his decision that it does not meet minimum
okay?
housing?
I have a motion on the floor
I second.
I'll second.
that you agree
I agree
with
with his
the,
decision that it does not meet minimum.
with the code enforcement officer's decision, it does not meet minimum housing codes.
Yes.
So I have that motion made.
Yes.
And I heard a second.
You did?
Okay, so all those in favor of agreeing with the code enforcement officer that the house does not meet minimum housing standards, well, let me back up a second. We have a motion on the floor, but I have 6 board members up here, plus an attorney, and only 5 board members vote, and I need at least 4 votes to the affirmative for the motion to pass. Because Annie, over here on the end, is our alternate member, and we have 6 members, she is the one that gets excluded, because the other 5 of us are on what's the word I'm looking for? Permanent board, not permanent board members, but at large. We're not alternates.
And actually, that raises a good point, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Adams came in just during the preliminary remarks of the hearing after the hearing had in fact been open. So I just want to clarify with him that he had an opportunity to hear all the substantive evidence presented in the case, ask all the questions he was felt compelled to ask, and is in a position to make
Informed decision.
an informed decision. Thank you.
I think so, and I referred to my packet prior to the meeting.
Okay.
Thank you.
So the 5 voting members will be the primary members and not the alternate, and we have to have at least 4 out of 5. So a motion on the floor, it's been seconded to agree with the code enforcement officer's decision that it doesn't meet minimum housing standards. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? So it's unanimous. We uphold the ruling by the code enforcement officer. Our next topic is there any additional information you would like to request and possibly meet again, in other words, recess this meeting and come back to discuss the milestones, consequences, et cetera, based upon the additional information?
First thing, as Mr. Esty says, it needs a thorough inspection ASAP. I mean, within 30 days, period. And then, once that inspection is conducted, we can come back and make true milestones from there.
If they're not allowed access to go in there and inspect it and all that, then I mean, that's off the table.
Yeah. Okay, so I've got an inspection within 30
I'd set a
days.
date
Okay.
or schedule the meeting.
And then you also want the planning department access to review it within the 30 days and report back?
I'd like
just
us to
asking.
reconvene and be able to make a informed decision and finalize the process or make a plan of action that's enforceable.
Okay, do you feel like you need any?
Well, whoever it takes to do that, I mean, it needs to be inspected and.
Right. Do you feel like you need any cost estimates updated, or are you going to be happy with the inspection? That's another
Cost up,
condition.
once the inspection has occurred, because
If there's additional.
if
need.
there's additional need, yes, we definitely need an updated cost estimate, because the figure could skyrocket.
I'm not balking at what Mr. I think Johnson came up with. He said there could be additional costs incurred, and that's what I don't know.
Yep.
Okay, now let me ask the board, on the cost estimate, do you want it brought up to 2017 standards or
Well-
just minimum housing standards?
Well, I think Wake County is going to require, in this scope of the work that's to be done, everything will have to be up to 2017
Current code.
There's no question about that.
You can't grandfather the structure in, it has to come up to current code. It's basically like a total renovation. So current code has to be enforced. And another condition I would want at 30 days is another inspection of what the condition is in terms of pest. While it has gotten cold, and that is an argument, we all know electrical wires carry heat, and cockroaches and everything else love those wires, and that's why they tend to fry and pop and cause fires, especially when it gets cold.
Okay, so in my little notes here, I have the board would like to have a thorough house inspection done within 30 days, that you would like to have a planning department have access to review all the work done up to that 30-day point, that we have a cost estimate for repairs to bring it up to current code, and possibly some type of a pest estimate or treatment to be done within that 30 days. And then we have the issue of who covers the cost.
And at what time, what waiting period it is to get the funding for it, that kind of thing.
That, I don't think,
I mean,
yeah, that
you
we'd have to
find
wait until we got
funding
this
source.
before it would go off to, for grant, because we have no
That's why I
idea.
wanted to
Yeah,
expedite.
Yeah,
I'm
that-
thinking out there too.
Yeah, because in the next 30 days, hopefully, we need to see that they have done some progress to apply for these grants, to make some conditions, not that, oh, we're going to, the holidays came, Thanksgiving.
Right.
That's not an excuse. This is your house. This is an important thing, so I would, every opportunity, churches, knock on doors, there's neighbors, do what you need to do, just to show us something.
Even with the tax bill that was introduced, in addition to the other one that's at a higher one, it's still the 60%.
Yeah, the
Still
60% was-
below.
was-
It's still,
yeah.
either way, it's below standard.
And just for clarification purposes, the percentage of cost or their cost versus value of the house is really, what that comes down to is whether the town can require somebody to actually undertake repairs, or if it's over a certain amount, you can't require them to make those repairs, but you have to require them only to demolish.
Yep.
So that's really the way.
You can offer them the option, if they can afford to do it, that they can do it.
Well, yes, they can always
wouldn't get
repair.
funded,
It's just
they
that the town
wouldn't
can't
get funded.
force them to spend
Yeah,
more
we
than the
couldn't,
value.
yeah, we couldn't force them to go beyond the 60%.
that's
Basically, you're giving them the, quote, cheap option out. Fine, you can demolish your house and we'll bill you. And
Mess up and let the mortgage company have it.
And just as a sort of point of clarification on the 30 days, I'm hearing 30 days to obtain an inspection.
But I know we need longer to actually
Well, because if they have 30 days to inspect, that the 30 days would then, I think, probably begin to run, we would need to notice a public hearing.
Correct, yeah.
Advertise the public hearing again.
So we wouldn't meet till January at
But
the
we
earliest.
can recess this and reconvene next week if we want to.
That's right, you can
As long as we
recess
don't
to
end the
a
meeting.
time, date, place certain.
Can I make one suggestion?
Of course.
I think, while I agree with the 30 days and trying to meet milestones, I do think it's going to take her a little bit of time to get some coordination and some help, since she does have some health issues, to try and get some of this assistance. Plus, the 30 days is going to be hitting, around holidays, and either getting, I know Mark offered assistance for inspections, but I just think the timing may, one, for the meeting, but also, two, to give her a little bit more time, but also give staff a little bit more time, knowing kind of where that time frame is hitting.
So you're thinking maybe the second or third week of January?
I think so. I don't.
We may be talking
I don't
6
know
or
the
7
meeting
weeks.
dates offhand, but what the next regularly scheduled meeting is, but
We haven't approved the meeting dates yet.
that's right.
It happens at the December meeting. So,
Well, the meeting dates for you are not approved by the Board of Commissioners. Only the Board of Commissioner dates are approved. So if you want to wait till the second or third week in January, the second Thursday is January 11th.
I was looking at the 11th or the 18th as a possible recess and reconvene then with the following items, which someone will have to make a motion on. And once again, we were talking about an inspection done, and rather than 30 days, you could say by January, whatever the meeting date's going to be.
Yeah, well, we can say the 18th, just to give the most.
Okay.
Mark, does that give a realistic time that, for staff to do what they need to do? Because the staff your resources are stretched to begin with, so we are now, I know we're putting more stress on that, so.
I think the 18th would probably work better for us and give her a little bit more time as well.
Okay.
Can I interject? If we're going to do that, I would still probably need any information that's going into the agenda before Christmas.
Yeah,
Because I have to put the agenda out, you have to have time to review the information that's going to be added back into the recessed meeting where you have new information to review. It's not necessarily part of the public hearing, but it's part of your next decision. So we would need some time to prepare that for you. So I'd have to have all that documentation ready so I can write my staff report. I need several days for Davita and I to get our staff report together, and then the next agenda packet printed, delivered. So if we're looking at, say, the 18th of January,
you'd have to have your staff report in, what, December 18th?
I would deliver the agenda to you on the 5th of January.
Yeah.
So I would need at least a week or so. With the holidays, we're closed 3 days for Christmas. So I would need something by December 21st. So I could make that agenda to you on the 18th.
You would leave it to be determined, or is it by the town?
Just to let you know what staff has to go through in order to prepare for one of these meetings. We need to give Ms. Mayo as much time as possible, but then we need to give staff as much time as possible to get that information back in your hands.
We could go with the recess until January 18th, and I guess let you communicate when the inspection's due to you, because we really don't care as long as we have a copy in our package roughly the first week of January, so we can review it before the 18th,
and
right?
if we're working with her, we may be able to get that staff report working while we're getting some of that information. We can run some things concurrently, so if we have a little control over those deadlines, it would be a little bit easier on staff.
Right. And we'll let you, I guess the deadlines will be controlled by you.
Yeah.
We're only concerned about by January 18th.
Yeah.
Okay.
So for your submittal process, because I go through this in my other position, you're going to need 3 to 4 weeks lead time to do what you really need to do, correct? With the holidays, it's sounding like that's not really a possibility for January 18th. So if we went to the end of the month or even the 1st of February, would that allow you to do what you needed to do?
Yes, but at the same time, I don't know if we want to hold her out of the home for that.
Correct. That's the kind of balance we need.
It's a trade-off of how soon we can get things done for her so that we can get her in a position where she's able to be in the house and making the repairs and being able to live in the house again. As we make some of those decisions and come up with some of those milestones at the same time, we don't want to purposely delay something that we can get through a little bit quicker. So I would say the 18th probably gives us just enough time, but it is going to be tight to make that, but I wouldn't want to push it back any farther.
Okay. I make a motion that we plan to hold a hearing on the 18th, to reconvene our hearing on the 18th.
We recess the meeting with a reconvening on January 18th at 6 o'clock.
Let's do 6 o'clock.
So we can start
because
earlier.
That'll give you more time. It's already almost 10 o'clock tonight. So it has been a long meeting, and it'll probably be the same kind of deliberation that night.
And then if I could also get someone to make a motion or recommendation to staff of the following things we wanted, and they were an inspection by January 18th of the home, the planning department have access to the home to review any work progress being done between now and January 18th, a cost estimate to bring the house up to current housing code by January 18th, and then some type of a pest estimate treatment be done between now and January 18th to control the situation. And I guess that goes on the exterminator to give us some recommendations. He's back there raising his hand because...
Go ahead, sir.
Yeah.
Is that something you can accommodate in that amount of time? Because I know we're not asking questions, but this is for our...
That's okay.
Okay. Can you accommodate that?
Yeah.
Okay, making sure. Yeah, because I know we're asking a lot, and the holidays here, but, you know.
Yeah, for clarification, at this point, because we upheld the appeal, no one can live in the house between now and January 18th, but they have access to the home to work, remove things, et cetera.
That's correct.
That's correct.
I figured that's where you were going, yeah. We had a kind of question from one of our officers, and I knew that's where it was going, so thank you for clarifying.
So basically, I'm assuming the board has just directed staff what we'd like to have by January 18th without a motion.
I'll make the motion that all the conditions that we were just outlaid by the chair need to be hopefully at least worked towards, if not resolved, by the 18th.
Of 2018.
Of 2018, sorry.
Okay. Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
Second, any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. It's unanimous. And with that, we'll close this evening's meal, or any old business.
Can I make one comment right before you do that? I guess, Toby, since the meeting is being recessed, the ex parte communication still, because the meeting...
Yeah, you should still, this board should also continue to avoid ex parte communication, because I think ultimately what's going to happen is a reopened public hearing in order for this board to receive new evidence. So from that standpoint, hence the public hearing would have to be renoticed and advertised and...
Good point.
Yeah, so we should not be talking, we should be waiting for additional information on the 18th.
Okay.
Good point. Yes, question?
As far as enforcement, if they are caught living there.
Go to the podium.
Yeah, microphone.
As far as enforcement action for us, if they are caught living there, what are our choices, I guess you could say?
As the board chair, I'm going to either give it to the attorney or back to Mark.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And I think that's it's, you have an enforceable order, the violation of minimum housing code. We can talk about options.
Is it trespassing?
We can talk,
Okay,
we'll talk about some options.
Okay.
Well, now, I think you should set some hours. I mean, if they're there at 2 o'clock in the morning saying they're retrieving belongings, they could be living, I mean, there's certain hours, like from 8 to 12 or
Yeah.
something like that.
I would say access to the house is access to the house, because I work at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Boy, you
but-
don't know if they're in there sleeping or packing boxes.
Yeah.
Well, they could be taking a nap, et cetera, but you'd have to look at the frequency and how often it's happening.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
I do respect the law, and once someone tells me to not enter property, I don't enter. I was licensed and bonded out of New Jersey. I used to work for food stamps, and I was licensed and bonded under the Essex County Sheriff Department out of New Jersey. So anytime any law enforcement tell me do not enter any property, do not go somewhere, I obey. I do not do that. If the property is not in good condition enough to live in it, I honor your decision. I will not live in it. I will only repair it. And I promise you, when they told us that we could not go in, Mr. Mark, Mr. Vita, they will all tell you, we always obeyed the command. We will not try to live in there. We just want to fix it. He won't have a problem with us. We don't try to stay. We might be late there, hours there because, I walk, a little slow. But we leave every night. We've never tried to stay there since they said we can't live there, okay? So I just want to let you all know.
Yeah, I'm sure the town staff is going to continue to work with you to help resolve
sir.
this, but you have a lot of work to do.
Yes, I do.
Between now and January 18th.
And I promise you I will do it if I'm allowed to get in touch with my insurance agencies and different things because the house is insured. And if I'm allowed to let them know what's going on, they will take care of it. They will take care of most of the damages.
Okay, so this evening's meeting is being recessed and will reconvene on January 18th, 2018 at 6 p.m. Okay, thank you.
Sure.